Hello and welcome to Live Reality Games. My name is Steven Stewart, and I am back with a surprise deep dive interview from Surviving Reelfoot Season 10, Fowler's Point. With me today is the one, the only KC. KC, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to finally talk to you, Steven. I've watched you talk to most of my other castmates at this point, and I've loved listening to all of them, getting into the heads of my other contestants. And I've just been so busy, I haven't been able to do it yet. And I figured the theme of me in the season was that I was always the last one to figure something out. So I figured it was appropriate for me to be one of the last ones to do this interview.
Well, you are usurping Megan and taking her crown away, but now you can be the one to define everyone's lasting thoughts of this season.
Yep.
So I want to kind of step back. We talked a little bit offline beforehand, but this was not your first live reality game. Your first game you ever played was Survivor Pacific Coast Trail. Can you talk about when that was and how that was for you? Because I'm a firm believer of how our past experiences in these games shape how we approach to play future games.
Right. Yeah, so in 20, I guess it was 2021, it was a year almost to the day before Reelfoot that I was playing in the Pacific Crest Trail. It's by this guy named John. He's not involved in like the same community as like the ORGs or the LRGs and stuff. So like everyone who played in that game did not know that this world existed, and I didn't know that this world existed when I played in that game. Um, so it was different, but it was really intense. And when I was out there, I did really well. I ultimately came in second place, and I had an experience where I pretty much was in the know the entire time. Um, and like I dictated pretty much every vote that I was involved in. And then in the finals, um, I ended up losing by one vote in the finals. And so I had a really successful experience in terms of the game itself, but also an unsuccessful experience in terms of winning the whole thing
Mhm.
when I really thought I was going to win it based on the game that I had played. Um, and then that, like you said, our past experiences influence the
Mhm.
current game. So like that game and my like the outcome of that game very much influenced my mindset for Reelfoot, and probably the biggest way that it influenced me is it made me second guess myself.
Mhm.
Whereas in PCT, I never second guessed myself. I always went with my gut. I've like really played hard from the get-go. In Reelfoot, I was constantly second guessing myself
Mhm.
because I didn't win following my gut the first time,
Mhm.
and I had a much worse experience in Reelfoot. So one piece of advice I offer to people is definitely go with your gut, follow your gut, and that's going to give you probably a better outcome.
Now, you're also the host of Survivor Bloomington. How when did that game start, and like how many seasons had you run prior to Reelfoot?
So before Reelfoot, we had aired or we had run 4 seasons. So I did
Mhm.
my first season in 2018. And it was, again, I had no idea that Reelfoot existed by then. At that point, I guess they were on like season 6 or 7. Um, and so it was, I'm like most of the people. I've been watching Survivor since I was 7 years old. I'm a day one fan. Um, and I was a fan of Rudy back when I was a kid because my dad's in the military and we would watch it together, so we liked the military connection. But it's always been my dream to be on CBS Survivor. I used to apply every year, and then at one point, I just decided, if I can't be on Survivor, then I'll make Survivor.
Mhm.
And it actually ended up being a really, really healthy way for me to channel that energy because I was so like obsessive about being on the show. And ever since I made my own, I don't even apply for the show anymore. Maybe it'll happen one day, but it's not anywhere near like this need that I have anymore because of that. And then in 2019 game, I decided to make it a charity event, just thinking, maybe we can raise, like 100, 200, $300 to just donate to people here in Bloomington who experience homelessness. And that cast raised $1,500. And then I was like, "Ooh, holy crap! Okay, so these people actually have like they're gonna potentially take this more seriously than I
Mhm.
thought." So then my third year, I really implemented the donation aspect of it, and they raised $3,500, so they doubled it again. And then by my fourth year, I really implemented it, and I like had in-game. The way you get in-game advantages in Surviving Bloomington is by raising money before the game starts. So the people who raise the most money get various advantages, and they raised over $10,000 to be
Wow.
donated. Yeah, to be donated to people here in Bloomington experiencing homelessness. And then, so out of all 5 years, we've raised over $20,000 to be donated directly into our community. And it's growing. It's awesome. I encourage anyone watching this, go to www.survivingbloomington.com, and feel free to reach out to me, interact, because we're going to be casting probably around January for season
So
6.
here, I'll post this in the chat for everyone to see. The link will be there. So from hosting Survivor in Bloomington and running Survivor in Bloomington, like you've seen a lot of players play and a variety of strategies play out, right? You know, what did you see that you saw was going to be successful for you versus not successful for you?
So one of the big things that I mean, you know, a lot of people know, like the big thing is you want to be yourself. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't really try to like put something on that isn't actually you. And then, you know, there's a lot of luck involved as well. But one thing that I kind of have tested now that I've played 2 games, I've tested both sides of them. Someone called it the equilibrium theory. I don't remember, I don't know where that originally came from. I did not come up with it. But the equilibrium theory is like whatever the rest of your team is doing, you act the opposite. So if your entire team is like really casual, laid back, not really doing much, then you want to be the person stepping forward and do like establishing alliances and doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if your team is like really in your face gung ho establishing alliances, then you want to be the person sitting back, and then someone will pick you up. That strategy was successful in my first game and very not successful in Reelfoot because I sat back, I slow played it so hard, and it screwed me
Mm-hmm.
pretty big time. So my recommendation there is always just go gung ho and try to get don't slow play it. Don't ever slow play it. Always try to build alliances from the get go.
So you talk a lot. Talked a lot about your Survivor PCT experience, Survivor in Bloomington. But when did you first really kind of hear and learn about these other games out there?
One of my contestants told me about Reelfoot. I don't remember who it was, but because I had just done PCT, and it was, you know, I did really well. I was excited about it, and you know, I was kind of like tentatively interested in playing in another one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like casually talking to one of my friends, and they showed me, it wasn't Reelfoot that they had shown me, but they showed me the Facebook page, the casting page with all of the different ones. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, I'm pretty outgoing. Like if I apply to a few of these, I'll probably get in one and then I'll get to play again. Um, and it just happened, Reelfoot, just when I was looking at the website, it just happened to be the Reelfoot was the one that they had just posted their application link. And I was like, I didn't even think I was going to get on because a big thing that like I noticed was I still had a lot. I honestly should have waited. I should not have applied to play in this year's game. I should have waited at least another year because I still had a lot of baggage from the PCT
Mm-hmm.
experience and losing it. Um, but so like even during like the interview process and the application process, I felt like I was not operating at 100%. And pretty
Mm-hmm.
much from the beginning, even all the way until like even weeks after
Mm-hmm.
the game was over, I feel like I was only operating at about like 70%. Whereas PCT, I was operating at 100% the
Mm-hmm.
entire time. And I remember doing interviews with like Pete and Amos and Parker and being like, that did not go well. Like, there's no way. Like cool. I mean, cool if they choose me. I mean, it didn't go like atrocious, but I'll be surprised if I get on because that was about 70% of what I actually have. But you know, I made it through. So I was like, okay, cool. I was just kind of like, there were so many times throughout this entire experience where I was just like, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to go forward with that. I don't really have a plan here, but so yeah.
So you apply for you apply to Reelfoot, you make the cast. We kind of talked a little bit about the preparation. For you, it sounds like the biggest part of your strategy you were changing was kind of second guessing your instinct, I guess, because you felt like. Can you talk a little bit about why that was the change you were making for this game?
Yeah, so I actually reached out to some of the people from my PCT cast
Hmm.
and I asked them like what advice like do you have any advice from like your perspective of like viewing me? And a lot of them said like, slow it down. You were going way too fast the entire time. People compared me to like Boston, not Russell Hantz, like All Stars Boston Rob and like Russell Hantz type of thing, where it was just like I was and Tony, like where I was just going like 100 miles a minute, and they were all like, "You need to slow it down because
Hmm.
like sure it got you like a lot of success in the game, but it didn't get like we were all so frustrated by you by the like time it was time to vote in the finals that we just
Hmm.
were over it. And so I was like, okay, I guess like I need to just slow down and kind of try to create a scenario where I'll be invited into an alliance instead of creating the alliance
Hmm.
myself. Um, and I thought it wouldn't be that unlikely that I'd get invited into an alliance. I'm a pretty. It's not unfair to say that I'm a
Hmm.
I'm useful in the challenges,
Hmm.
so it would make sense for someone to do it. And then when I had immunity, like I wasn't getting voted out, I
Yeah.
was like, why wouldn't someone invite me into the alliance? So I was just
Yeah.
kind of sitting around waiting, like, okay, when's the invitation coming? And then when it wasn't coming, I was like, I guess this group just isn't doing that. Like, I guess we're all just like waiting until we lose to do something. And then at a certain point, I was like, I guess I got to say a name, so I'll say Lauren. Like,
Mhm.
like no one else is saying anything, so I guess I have to be the one to say something. Little did I know they were all doing it behind my back. So
So, how else did you prepare for Reelfoot? Because you said your PCT was a 4-day game. Reelfoot's going to be a 7-day game. I don't know what I know. I apologize. I haven't looked at the videos. I don't know what the situations were like. But Reelfoot's pretty like they just throw you out there, close your back. Maybe you have a lecture item.
yeah, so it was funny. So in my games in Surviving Bloomington, I don't starve my contestants in the same way that real footers do. I give them a pretty decent amount of food. Like for me, the game is the social aspect of the game. I don't really care about, I don't, for me personally, I don't think it adds too much to like the starving aspect. And I remember it was like 2 weeks before or before Real Foot started that like the connection happened in my brain of wait, we're not going to have tents, we're not going to have sleeping bags, we're not going to have food, like this is like we're just going out there. And I was like, okay, that's kind of stressful, I guess I'm just going to deal with it. But a lot of it was just me, there wasn't a whole lot of preparation in terms of that because just the connection didn't
Hmm.
happen where I realized that it was going to be that level of roughing it. Um, but what I did do is I prepared physically a
Hmm.
lot. And that is the biggest difference between my PCT experience and my Real Foot experience. The people I played with on the Pacific Crest Trail, what like that game was much more physically challenging.
Hmm.
Like the challenges were really grueling and difficult. Like if if the PCT game on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most difficult, PCT was like a 9 and Real Foot was like a 4 or a 5 in terms
Hmm.
of like the difficulty of the challenges. So my understanding of these other games was like I need to be as physically fit as possible
Hmm.
because this is going to be difficult. Um, and when I got out there, that was not the case. And I think I kind of screwed myself because I was one of the more physically fit
Hmm.
people on the cast and it was really difficult for me to hide. Whereas in PCT, I was not anywhere near like top of the totem pole of
Hmm.
physically fit. So it was pretty easy for me to hide amongst the group. In Real Fit, I don't think it was easy for me to hide amongst the group.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, so I prepared physically a lot. And in terms of like mentally or preparing for the game itself, I just kind of, I don't really know what you can do about that. I just went in like I'm just going to wing it, see what happens. I'm
Hmm.
a pretty nice guy. It's not too hard for me to get along with people, so hopefully that works. And we saw how that went.
Is there what was your lecture item?
uh, Yeah, the luxury item is I didn't have a luxury item actually because I'm
Hard
still
mode.
pissed. I'm still pissed about the luxury items. I can't believe like some people are allowed to have sleeping pads and some people aren't. Are you kidding me? Like, what is that? Um, so if I had known sleeping pads was an option, obviously choose the sleeping pad. That is 1000% the route to go. But I think I originally chose a Magic 8 Ball.
Mhm.
Just a shout out to Rob Sesternino. I'm a big Sesternino fan. But that was one of those things where I second guessed myself. I was like, I don't want to broadcast to the group what a big fan I am. And as soon as they see that Magic 8 Ball, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, we were all such huge fans out there. I
Mhm.
actually think it might have endeared me to people if I did have it. So I should have just brought the 8 Ball. But when I second guessed myself, I asked Parker if I could switch it to something, and he said no. And I was like, all right, I'm just not going to bring a luxury item then because I don't know really what I could bring.
So you get to the game and you're sequestered in a room with one or two other people. Do you remember who you were sequestered with?
Who do you think I was sequestered with? You should be able to get
I
this.
mean, I should be able to tell. Like, so many people have told me who they're sequestered with, but I just cannot recall. I should have written it down.
So I have a tentative problem with the sequester thing. I think they should just put us if you're gonna try to get us to like not talk or whatever, they should put all of us in the same room because I think they and there's no way for them to know this, but I think they inadvertently chose the alliances by putting people together because all of I've been listening to all these interviews and almost everyone that I can think of ended up aligning with the person that they were roomed with,
Mhm.
myself included. I was with Megs. So that was like the beginning of the, yep, Dina got it. That was the beginning of the Megs thing. I do remember seeing Megan out there, or she stood out to me. And I also saw Angela, and I think I saw Barb, and
Mhm.
we all saw Dash because of his
The pirate hat.
pirate. But I re- Angela and Megan stood out to me in terms of people who weren't in my room, but Megs was in my room, and I remember I saw like on her bag, her name was Megs, and in the text that I like, we all got like a final text, and I texted my girlfriend. I was like, "Keep your eye on Megs. I might align with her because she's the only person I've seen so far."
Well, Dina had Sharif and Drew, and so unfortunately that didn't work out. She didn't have a chance to align with them.
Well,
Um,
she probably would have aligned with Drew. That would have been awesome.
um, so I had a question I was thinking of. Yeah, so it's interesting about the sequester things. This is the first time they ever did that. My season, they do it's that you do a we had like an opening lunch and everyone's there, everyone's talking, and they've had in the past, and this is something different though. It's hard to say what the best thing is. Survivor British Columbia will blindfold you and put you in a corner for 2 to 3 hours potentially, and so for that first reveal. And so there's different methods of trying to go about it.
Yeah, I wish at least like I get the urge to do the sequester thing, and it was a cool, unique experience of like because I'm pretty sure that's how they do it in CBS Survivor, at least they used to, where
Mhm.
you are sequestered with like one or two other people. But because is was this the first Reelfoot season where it started with a dodgeball pick that you know of?
Um, Hold on, I can check that. Going to the wiki. It's the first time since season one.
Okay, so I don't know when they made that decision.
Hmm.
I know it was because of the person who had to drop out last minute, but I think it would have actually been really cool to let us all mingle with each other before
Hmm.
doing the dodgeball pick. So actually, if there ever was a season to not do the sequester, this was probably the one. I think they should have done the sequester because it would have
Yeah,
been interesting for us all to because you were to a certain extent, I think you were boxed into choosing one of the people. Like if they were available to choose, you were almost boxed into choosing one of the people because Megs chose me in the dodgeball pick, and it's probably because she didn't really. Well, who else am I going to pick? I
yeah. You're
recognize
you're
that
you're
person.
grasping for people you recognize or names remember, and it's all like, all right, like I guess good vibes from this person.
Yeah. So I think it was just like an inadvertent thing that accidentally happened. And I host my own game, so I get it. Like you can't control all of these factors. It's
Mhm.
literally impossible. So
So you get the school year pick. Do you remember who picked you? Oh, you said Megs picked you, and who did you pick?
Yeah, so Megs picked me, which so funny story. I was the only I from what I could tell, I was the only person in their game clothes
Mhm.
like for the pick because when they said all right, it's time to go out, I thought they meant like all right, like put your clothes on, but really they meant like you're just gonna pick teams and then you can change later. So I was in like my big yellow shirt and I was like, well, I'm obviously gonna like I'm like incepting people by accident right now. Like I'm gonna be on the yellow team. Like no one on blue is gonna pick me. And then whenever Ryan picked Megs first, and then I was like, okay, that's the person in my room. Like I'll be mind blown if she doesn't pick me. And then she did. And then I was trying to decide between Lauren and Megan. And
Mhm.
I wanted to pick Megan because I had seen her around. She just kind of has that attitude and aura of the type of people that I hang out with in like my real life. And man, I wish I had gone with my gut on that one because listening to her interview with you,
Mhm.
I was just constantly like, God damn it, why didn't I pick Megan? She would have been perfect for my game to start the game with. Because at one when she was talking to you, she said like her perfect ally
Mhm.
is someone who like doesn't need a lot of talking to. Like, you know, you check in with them once and then like, all right, we're good. Let's stop talking for the next few hours. Like
Mhm.
that is what I look for in an ally. I do not want to have like long drawn out conversations about the plan or whatever, you know, like let's figure out the good plan and then we don't need to talk about it anymore
Mhm.
because that's too much energy. And when she was saying all that in your interview, I was like, God damn it, I wish I had started with her. Meanwhile, I pick Lauren, the freaking master, from my perspective, the mastermind of the game, and just like completely dominates me the entire time. It would have been so much different if I had just gone with my gut and chosen Megan instead of Lauren. But I think Ryan told me to choose Lauren.
Mhm.
I don't know why randomly, but that was good for his game.
Oh, you could have had it like Josh and just not pick someone, and so you don't have to hurt anyone's feelings. So
Yeah.
your tribe comes together. You're on the Kawanu tribe. It's Angela, Dina, James, you, Keenan, Lauren, Megs, Ryan, Storm. Looking at this group of people, how are you feeling?
Uh, just again, I'm operating at 70% right now, and I'm just kind of like looking around, like I don't really know what to expect here. I didn't think I'd be here at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on? Who are these people? What's happening? This is season 10 of this game that I know nothing about. Like, who here knows things that I don't know? And I'm just kind of looking around, like just kind of shrugging my shoulders, wondering what's going on. And it's kind of a blur, honestly. But like even when James had the option to choose one of the teams, I was like, I saw that they Sharif and Bash. I had this like thing in my head that they're like amazing in challenges, and also Julie. I thought Julie was going to be like just this incredible like person in the challenges, and I was like, he should choose blue. Like he's going to choose blue, and then he's good at puzzles, so like blue's just going to dominate us. And then he shows us, and I was like, okay, cool. So
Well, before we move forward, how upfront were you with people about your experience in PCT as well as the game you host, Survivor Bloomington?
not at all. They didn't know. None of them knew anything really. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I talked tentatively like about my fandom, but I didn't even really express that too much, which was a mistake. I one thing that Reelfoot definitely taught me if I ever play any of these live reality games again is that everyone there is fans.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone there is massive fans. It's not like CBS Survivor where they're grabbing recruits and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like if you get in Reelfoot, it's because you're like a really big fan of the show, and it's okay to talk about your fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I should have done that more. I wouldn't have told anyone that I hosted games, but I don't think it would have been an issue if I told people that I had played in one before. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have told them that I was the villain of the season, obviously, but um, I like because like Keenan was super upfront about he had played in the game before. I think some people, oh yeah, Megs and Angela had played in games before, and they were upfront about it. And I didn't care when people told me, so I should have realized, you know, people don't care. You can tell them that you've played in games before, and you know maybe monitor some of the details that you tell them. But I should have been more upfront about my fandom. I think that would have given me more to talk to some of them about and maybe endeared me to them a little more.
Hmm.
Whereas I think I probably did come off as closed off to a lot of the people on yellow, and it's because I was like constantly censoring myself when I shouldn't have been.
Hmm. So, how concerned were you with other players' prior experience or connections?
Um, Not, I wasn't, because,
Hmm.
and that, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think that there would be people
Hmm.
like with prior knowledge, because I was even trying to like, I was just constantly trying to hide mine. So I was like,
Hmm.
they probably are trying to hide theirs too. And this is, its own
Hmm.
experience, its own game. And um, it's an entirely different group of people. That's one thing that I learned from Surviving Bloomington is that every game is completely different, and
Hmm.
it really doesn't matter how you did in your past game. It is how you do in one game is not indicative of how you're going to do or act in
Hmm.
another game. I don't
So,
think.
after your tribe comes together, James joins your tribe. You'll have 9 players. Your Amos asked your tribe to vote for a person, not what, not why, but write a name down and vote for them,
Oh
which
my.
is going to end up being a critical juncture of your game. But who'd you vote? Who'd you write down for this?
Uh, okay, so again, back to the theme of me second guessing myself. I literally just kept writing names until they got to me. So I think I had written Storm down, I had written Ryan down. I think I had written Angela down at one point, and then by the time they got to me, James's name just happened to be the one that was written down. Um, Sorry. But yeah, by the time it got to me, James's name was the one that was written down. No, there wasn't any real reason. Quite frankly, I thought it should be me, and I couldn't vote for myself because I thought it was going to be a challenge.
Mhm.
And I was standing next to Dina, and I remember kind of interacting with her during that experience where um, I I didn't like I don't think I outright said you can vote for me, but I remember telling her like it might be a challenge, and I think she asked me like, "Well, do you want to go?" And then I think I kind of like shrugged my shoulders, and I basically gave her the go ahead of like, "Yeah, you can vote for me. It's not that big a deal because it's not like I'm not getting voted out. Like literally worst case scenario, I just go to blue, which I kind of want to be on blue anyway. So like in best case scenario, it's a challenge, and I probably win the challenge unless it's like sumo at sea against Sharif. Other than that, I think I win pretty much any challenge against any of the blues.
So you really weren't surprised when when you were chosen.
No, also we had done, I guess we had done our introductions at that point, and my name has 2 letters in it. So I figured like it's either going to be Storm because that's a really easy name to remember, or KC because it's got 2 letters in it.
Mhm.
And we're two of the bigger guys, which I think in a scenario like that.
Yeah, had
Yeah,
you swapped tribes with Bash early on, that would have been very interesting to see how that would go down. Also,
yeah, I
to
would have.
fill my fantasy of Bash and Keenan on a tribe for long periods of time with each other, that'd be great.
Yeah, I that we were robbed of that. I don't. It would have been so funny just watching them interact with each other
Hmm.
because I can't tell if they would like just like click and get along like incredibly, or if they would like be butting heads and fighting for that spot
Hmm.
of like the character of the season. So I don't know. But I would
So,
have loved to have started on blue. That would have been freaking awesome
mhm.
in hindsight.
So you end up winning the vote. Does it tie and you win the revote? Is that what happens, or it's just you win the first vote?
Yeah, it was a tie, and in hindsight, I wish because I had written Storm down at one point,
Hmm.
and in hindsight, I guess I probably should have kept it on Storm, but then maybe I'm the first one voted out, so maybe not.
Well, so you are brought up and you're told, like, congratulations, you just won immunity at your first tribal council, which has to be a great feeling, right?
uh, so there's a couple times where it's like a blur to me, and I'm not really like, not that I'm not paying attention, but that I'm just like not really
Hmm.
comprehending fully what's going on. This is a result of the 70% that I'm operating at.
Hmm.
Um, and when they were saying that, I was like, I didn't even fully appreciate or realize that I had immunity. Like it took me a few hours before I realized, like, oh wait, I can't be voted out first. Like that's kind of cool. Yeah, I did not have that realization in the moment. I was thinking more how to neutralize the necklace thing
Yeah,
that they were
because
telling me out.
Because then we see a twist returning from season 3. This is essentially penalty vote medallion. So whoever wears it receives an extra vote their next tribal council, and you now have the privilege of bestowing that on a player to start the cycle. And
Yep.
what is going through your head? You're like, okay, who am I giving this to? How am I negating this? What's going to go on?
So my philosophy in games like this is, in terms of advantages, is I just want to neutralize the advantages.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in PCT, one of the things that I did was we would find all of the idols as a group, and that way the idols are basically just neutralized because we know where they are. I think that's Lauren's like idea around idols too. You don't need to have them yourself. You just need to know where it is so
Yep.
you can neutralize it. And if one of your close allies has it, that's best case scenario, because then it's like, all right, we don't have to worry about the opposition having it. I don't have to worry about me having it, and like people will need to target me. And this person that I probably don't want to go to the finals with will have that target eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So like with these advantages, the way I think about them is I'm trying to figure out ways to neutralize them. So that's what I was thinking about. And so I was being completely honest when I pulled my group aside and told them, like, yo, let's just neutralize this shit. Cause like it's gonna be on all of us at some point. And I know when it's on me, I don't want that to just, I don't want the precedent set of whoever's got that necklace gets voted out, because I know it's gonna be on me eventually. So we need to just nip this in the bud and not vote for whoever has it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my decision-making process was like, all right, who can I give this to that's probably not going to get voted out? Because, you know, if I put it around like James's neck or Dina's neck or something and they get voted out, like they're just, I'm getting it next.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to put it on someone that at a glance, before I knew them, I thought like this person's probably going to be safe. They're probably not going to get voted out. And I was trying to decide between Storm and Keenan. And maybe I should. I'm actually curious if Storm's here. You should comment. What would you have done if I had put it around your necklace? Would you have been receptive to my logic there,
Mm-hmm.
or would it have just like made us, you know, completely at odds from day one? Kind of like it did with it kind of turned Keenan against me.
Yeah.
And Keenan, he kept asking me, like, I put it around his neck, and then I gave my little speech, and then he was like, "Hey, just so you know, we could talk later."
Anonymous Facebook user is Storm. I don't know why it's just like that, but yes, he would have been fine if you put it around his neck.
Okay, so yeah, Keenan was like, "Hey, we should talk later so you can tell me the real reason." And I looked over and I was like, "I did tell you the real reason. Like that's the real reason I gave it to you, because I believe you're safe." And he kept asking me like multiple times, like, "I need to know the real reason." I was like, "I've already told you the real reason. Like, I'm not voting for you. Like, I don't know what you need from me or what you want from me, but I've already told you the real reason." So in hindsight, I guess I could have given it to like Storm, or I think Lauren potentially would have been receptive to just the logic of it. But in reality, I should have just not even, I should have just put it around his neck and not said anything, kind of like Bash did, and just been like, yeah, if you all want to vote for Keenan, I'll vote for Keenan, whatever.
So yeah, because it's interesting, because it just, this is such a critical moment when you need to explain it to the tribe, because it has a lot of people have this very strong, a lot of people in your tribe have this very strong reaction to this moment. Like, oh wow, he is playing hard from the get-go. I need to watch out for that. It has like this maybe an adverse effect of than what you want as a result from here.
Yeah. And I mean that's also like partly why I, you know, took a step back at camp, because I knew like I've already stepped forward and like gave my proclamation like to this group. I've already, so now I need to take a step back, and I can't be like trying to run things that hard from like the get-go. But yeah, I mean that's honestly just my personality. I can't even say that I would take it back, because I think I make that speech in any scenario. Like I really don't think that's just how I operate. Like when I'm thinking about something and I know that it's about to hurt someone's feelings, like I want to tell them like why I made a decision that I made the best decision that I thought wouldn't hurt someone's feelings. Does that make sense? And so like I wanted to explain why I thought it wouldn't hurt his feelings and why it shouldn't hurt his feelings, because I'm actually genuine about this. Does not mean I want to do anything. I'm actually trying to bring us together as a group and say, yo, let's let Blue worry about this necklace thing. we don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to use it, my social worker pants were put on, and I was trying to use it as like my group therapy session or whatever. And that's just my personality. I can't turn that off, and I can't say that I would realistically do it different in an alternate universe.
Let me pose it differently to you. Like, is there a world where you just give a very generic answer and like you say, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I just picked someone and I panicked because I had to give it to someone, and I'm so sorry." Then afterwards on one-on-one, you say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to neutralize it," and like you can have that one-on-one moment with different players, make them feel like, okay, like this is the real reason he's trusting me to tell us this. I don't know. Do you think there have been any merit to something like that?
Yeah, that's what I should have done. I agree that's like the correct way to handle it, but like I said, that it just wasn't like I made a very active decision to
Mm-hmm.
say that to the group, and that's something that I would do in my like normal life. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't sit here and say that like that it wasn't something I was even almost going to do. Like I was always going to say that. The only reason I wouldn't do that is in hindsight,
Mm-hmm.
knowing everything that I know now.
I mean,
In the moment, I think, and so during this podcast, I talk about alternate universes a lot. That's a big thing that I like talk about with like myself and my clients. So like when you make a decision, an alternate universe is created of
mhm,
um, the other decision. I don't think there's any realistic alternate universe where I don't make that speech because that's just part of my
mhm.
personality.
Well, I'm excited for the KC multiverse that we're going to establish here in this
It's big.
podcast. Because
It's
what are
big.
these games good for but spawning a ton of coulda, shoulda, wouldas?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of fan theories, fan fiction.
So from here, you enter your first reward challenge, and this is the memory box challenge, where you have the match pairs. You get small rewards based off your matches. Anything noticeable from this?
Um, Well, mistake number two for Casey is I sat this challenge out.
Oh, I didn't.
So yeah, we had one extra person, so one of us wasn't allowed to participate. I suck at memory. I suck at memory and I suck at puzzles. So I just told my group, like, hey, we're gonna have to sit someone out in a future challenge. If it's physical, we want me in there. So it's fine for me to sit this one out because I suck at memory and I'm not gonna be helpful anyway. But I think I don't know how much this like actually played like a conscious factor in people's decision making, but it could not have helped me that I was not in the group celebrating with the group for that, 15-20 minute challenge. Like I was physically standing behind all of them, so they couldn't even see me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were every time they got a match, they celebrated with each other. They didn't celebrate with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also specifically remember noticing Drew and making eye contact with Drew on the blue team and being like, "I like that guy. He's kind of cool. He's gonna be fun to go against." I did not think he would get voted out first, and I was like, "I hope we have some sort of fit." He's kind of a similar build to
Mm-hmm.
me, similar height, and I was like, "I bet if we have like a head-to-head physical challenge, him and I are going to be going against each other, and that's going to be pretty fun." So. Drew stood out to me, and also Lauren stood out to me in this challenge because she got a match without any clues. Like she did her first time out there, she flipped one, flipped another one, and it was a match. And I remember thinking in my head, like when she flipped her first one, I was like, she's got it. I was trying to like actualize it, like actualize the universe of like she's about to flip a match, she's about to flip a match, and then she didn't. I was like, yeah, let's go. So Lauren and Drew stood out to me in that challenge.
So after this, you head back to camp and kind of talk to me about the setup at camp that night. Like, what were you doing and who were you starting to talk with?
So obviously we all know I was talking to Megs. That wasn't any super
Mm-hmm.
big secret. I also felt like I bonded really, really well with James.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone thought that Megs was like my number one, and to a certain extent she was, but James was the person that I was envisioning like really going deep into the game with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way I think to him, I posed it as like from season 42, Jonathan and Omar esque thing, because I knew
Mm-hmm.
I was like the physical person and he was like the brains person. And I wanted to kind of create that mindset because I know Jonathan wasn't really like the most loved person in that season, at least from my perspective. So I was trying to create an idea in his head of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, Casey, like I could beat him. If I go to the finals with Casey, I can
Better
beat
than
Casey.
Stephen and JT because you're like, because like, yeah, I'll be JT, you be Stephen, and you're like, but wait, that means I'm gonna lose to
Yeah,
you.
he said Steven and JT. Like I said Jonathan and Omar with the I like trying to incept like, yeah, you're gonna beat me. And then he said Steven and JT, and I was like,
If you
Sure, I guess.
want.
But yeah, so James was like someone that I really, really, really wanted to work with. And then, like I said, I slow played it so freaking hard. It was not smart, not good. Don't slow play. If you're a future player watching this, do not slow play it. It didn't do me very well.
I think it's always about kind of figuring out what the vibe of the tribe or how fast the tribe is going. And your tribe, things were going fast. I mean, it was you weren't
Warren
seeing
was
it, but
doing it
things.
before the game started, which was crazy to hear. I was like, God damn it, why didn't I do that?
Because there's other games like you come out blazing day one, everyone's just like, whoa, there we gotta vote him out. He's playing too hard, right? It's just like how do you like trying to figure out what that middle ground is always the hardest part.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm already like a face of the group because I have immunity. I'd already made that big speech. Like I don't want to like start dictating alliances, and I thought I would be invited into something. I was like, I don't see why, like, there's not a ton of reason that I can see why I wouldn't be invited into something. I mean, I've got immunity. Like, I feel like people should want to know where my vote is going theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just kind of waiting for someone to say something to me. And I had tentative stuff with Megs. I felt good about my stuff with James, and I felt like I was talking to Keenan as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for the other people, I mean, I was just kind of playing nice. And this was also partly I just wasn't operating at 100%
Mm-hmm.
KC vibes. And, I'm a pretty quiet, reclusive person in my normal life. I really don't go out. Like, if I have the option of staying home and like watching TV or playing video games, that's the option I choose, like for
Mm-hmm.
the most part. I hang out with my girlfriend and her dog. That's it. That's my like social interactions other than work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of natural for me to stay quiet. And then when the rest of it, from my perspective, I thought the rest of the group was doing that too, but
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong.
So talk me through your thoughts in the rest of your tribe mates.
Um, So that first day, not a whole lot. I talked to Dina a decent amount, actually. I really liked Dina because so I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Right now, I live in Bloomington, Indiana. And Dina reminded me of my Louisville friends,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like rough and tumble. Like if Dina were to cuss me out, I wouldn't blink an eye. Like it's just part of like that personality, and I wouldn't be offended by it or anything like that. It's just kind of
The social lust
it's almost
force.
forced. Hey, I'll talk about that in a little bit, Dina. But so I really liked Dina, and I wanted to build something with her potentially. I knew James and Angela got along really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
So Angela and I didn't really directly talk, but like so in my world, in my PCT experience, building an alliance, I don't like bring the whole group together and talk about it as a group. I think of it more as like a chain link
Mm-hmm.
fence where like I'm talking to someone, then that person is talking to another person, then that person, and we build the alliance like through that way, but you're not directly talking to everyone in the alliance. So from my perspective, I thought my responsibility was building bonds with James and Keenan. And so I was supposed to keep those two under wraps. And then James and Megs were supposed to build the alliance with Angela.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought was happening. So that's why I didn't really talk to Angela too much because I
Mm-hmm.
thought Megs and James were looping her into things. And I didn't want to create this like obvious group of five like um, Dina, Lauren, Storm, and Ryan were doing because I saw those four constantly
Mm-hmm.
going off. I was like, well, they're like, that's the four. They're looking for the fifth, like to their group, and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to pull an Angela. Um, and so I was trying not to be obvious about it and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk like play a game of telephone to create the alliance, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't work in this group. It worked in my PCT group, but it didn't work in this group. And then every time I talked to someone, I would ask them, so who do you like? Like, who do you want to keep around? And every time I talked to someone, Lauren was always at the top of people's list. Everyone loved Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
No one was willing, like, if you said Lauren's name, you were in trouble because, like, everyone loved Lauren.
Mhm.
So that was kind of like the beginning, like day one, the beginning of like the Lauren stuff of like how is Lauren talking to everyone? Like, because she's doing it to me too. I
Mhm.
know what she said to me, and it sounds like she's saying the same stuff to everyone else. So
Mhm.
that was kind of like the beginning of the Lauren stuff.
So what were so you weren't sounds like you weren't talking very much to the Storm, Ryan, Lauren, and Dina a little bit. She has this comment here that she would third wheel you and Jane's to make sure you couldn't conspire against her.
Oh, really? Yeah, I like I said, I was just slow playing it really hard, and that's just also part of my personality. I'm a slow burn.
Hmm.
I like to get to know people. I want to see like where the personalities lie. Like why? I mean, if you can be in alliance with people that you like, then why not be in alliance with people you like? And it takes a couple
Hmm.
days to figure out if you like someone.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't have targeted Dina early on because she reminded me of my friends back home. The only reason later I targeted Dina was because of what happened.
Hmm.
It was in retaliation completely.
Hmm. So one other thing I want to talk about day one is you find a clue to the immunity idol in the winnings from the memory match challenge. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, so we got the basket of goodies that we won, and there was a packet. I don't remember what they were, but it was like Crystal Light packages,
Hmm.
and I remember seeing them. And there were two boxes with the Crystal Light packages in it. One of the boxes still had the plastic wrap around it, and the other one didn't have plastic wrap around it. And I remember thinking like that those Crystal Light packages, it's about like that. I was like, that's about the size that a hidden note could be, and for some reason one of these things has been opened before any of us have touched it, so there's probably something in that one. And so I opened it up and saw a little piece of paper and snuck it up and I hid it inside my water bottle. And that was the beginning of me finding the uh, thinking that I knew what was going on with the hidden immunity idols. So that clue, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it said something along the lines of along the path you walk all week, look down for the idol you seek, or something like that.
Hmm.
And that made me think. I thought the idols were either on the way to challenges or at tribal council.
Hmm.
I thought the idols were not at our camps.
Yeah.
And specifically, I thought it was at tribal councils where I really thought they were. So that entire first tribal council I was at, I wasn't even paying attention because I thought I had it on lock and Lauren was getting voted out. I was looking for hidden immunity idols during that tribal council because so I was like, yeah, okay, so I'm pretty sure because the reason I thought it was at tribal is because it said along the path you walk all week.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, I'm not going to be at this camp all week. Like if there's a swap, then I'm not going to be here. So it has to be somewhere where we're going to be going literally all week. And the only place that could be is either to a challenge or to tribal council, likely tribal council. So that's why I thought it was at tribal council because the I read the clue as saying like you're going to be going to this place all week where you have access to the idol. So
Hmm. So one of
yeah.
my favorite quotes is from your confessional here when you kind of talk about this. You're just like, hey, like you're like, I'm fine losing the reward challenge. In fact, I might want to throw the reward challenges. I think there'll be more clues than other reward challenges. And if we lose, we don't get more clues and problem solved. And I'm the only person with this knowledge.
Yeah, so again, that goes back to my idea of like trying to neutralize idols. Just you want to know where you want to control
Hmm.
the flow of information essentially. And yeah, that's what like when we were doing the SOS challenge, I think I was one of like the leading people, which I have something else to say about that, but I really was having the mindset of like we don't really need to win this because I don't want anyone else because I thought it was at tribal council and I was like I don't want anyone else knowing that this thing is at tribal council so I can just snag it like right like I don't even ever have to be holding the idol like I'm owning the idol if I know like where it's
Hmm.
sitting at tribal council and then I'll just leave it there
Hmm.
and like I would be theoretically the only one to know that it's even there and then whenever I decide I want to play it I would literally stand up walk over to where it is grab it and then play it like and within like the same 20 seconds so yeah with the rewards no, I wasn't throwing them I wasn't like actively trying to lose them but like I sure as shit was not trying my best because I was like it's kind of best it's like the real reward is me the only one knowing where
Hmm.
these clues are.
And there is going to be an idol at Tribal Council just at the final eight.
Oh, I'm so mad. I should have seen that.
So Talk me through that first night, because this again kind of this matters how the sleeping arrangements were at your tribe.
Yeah, the sleeping thing is interesting because so my perspective was like obviously I know like I watched Boston Rob say it 12 years ago on television at Heroes vs. Villains. He said, "Pay attention to who you're sleeping next to, or pay attention to who they're sleeping next." So in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, we're past this, right? Like this was established 12 years ago. Like we this doesn't matter. Like this is like old news. It doesn't matter who we sleep next to, right? Like we're past this. And like it's also just a thing about me. I'm pretty particular about my sleeping and like who I'm around and like feel like safe sleeping next to. So like a big part of that was also me just like I don't want to sleep next to people. Like I'm not comfortable
Mhm.
sleeping next to people that I don't know in an environment like this. I would like I can sleep in the same general space, but I don't want to I do not want to cuddle anyone. Like I do not want people touching me while I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So that first night, I in my head, I told myself like it's fine, like we're past this, right? Like I can go sleep by myself without it, like meaning I lose the game. In reality, I should have just told them all. I should have just been upfront and said like, hey guys, um, I'm really not comfortable sleeping like directly next to someone in this environment. Like, I still love all of you. You're great. It's just my own personal thing that I'm
Mhm.
not willing to, sacrifice or whatever for this game. So I'm gonna physically sleep over here, but I still want to be part of the group. I should have just said that, and I didn't.
You didn't enjoy the sardine positioning of everyone at the blue camp on your
You know,
so off tribe.
Storm is the only person in the entire game that I cuddled with. He's the only one that night. But yeah, if you pay attention, I always, if I had to sleep like in a group setting, I always slept on the very end so I could, roll away if I felt like I needed to. And but yeah, Storm, you're the only one that I'm willing to cuddle with out of this group.
So let's talk through the reward challenges through day two, right? And so you have the SOS challenge, right? Uh, anything else you want to add to that?
No.
Yeah. You have the slip side score challenge. This is where you go to the slip inside and like do some stuff, race back up, toss the ring. How was that for you?
It was good. I beat Sharif, which felt really good because he's the big guy on the other side. When you don't know him and you haven't had an opportunity to talk to him, he can be intimidating to just like look at. And it's like, ooh, like when I saw that I was going against him, I was like, ah, shit, I've got a little bit of an uphill battle here. So I think he accidentally like flipped his kayak or something, and so when I was getting my ring and I looked back and he was still in the water, I was like, let's go, I got this. Um, but that challenge, again, it was a reward, and I didn't super want to go on that boat ride because I was like, that sounds kind of tiring. Like, I'd rather go back and take a nap than have to go on this boat ride. But the food, whatever food they got, actually did sound pretty good, and I was
Mhm.
jealous about the food that they got. Um, but what really the big thing that came out of this, so it was on the way back from from that challenge to camp. This is when like in my mind, the beginning of the Casey versus Lauren. Like Casey needs
Mhm.
Lauren out of this game. This is what happened. This is when it started, because on the way back, Dina and Lauren kind of cornered me. It was so weird. I still haven't talked to Lauren about this. I need to ask her like if this was intentional or an accident. I think it was intentional, and I'm going to talk about it as if it was intentional.
So Dina's is kind of one of the same moments. Like you approached Laura and I for alliance before approaching Angela. We were going to say yes, but the who do you want to vote for conversation really foiled that. I wonder if this is the same moment that Dina's referencing her, but continue.
It might be, but and maybe I'm misremembering it, but in my head, the way I remember this conversation going down is it felt like Dina and Lauren kind of ambushed me, and specifically Lauren was doing all of the talking, and we were kind of talking about like, oh, do we want to work together? Saying the niceties, and then Lauren asked me who I would vote for, and I was like, oh, I don't know, and she kind of started going down the line of who we could vote for. I think at one point I said like, well, what if we did Angela? And Lauren was like, no, we can't do Angela. And then Lauren said, well, what if we did James first? And I was like, no, I'm not doing James. And we like went down the line of everybody. And eventually it got to the point where I was in my head, I'm thinking like, who do you want me to say? Like, you're saying no to all of these things that I'm bringing, all of these names that I'm bringing up. And then, like, we physically looked up, and Storm and Ryan were standing in front of us, like within our view. And that's when I was like, well, what about Storm? I don't know. Like, it felt like I went through all of the possible names
Mhm.
until I got to Storm. And then as soon as I said Storm, she goes, okay. And then she walked off. Like, that was the end of the conversation. And she walked directly over to Storm and started talking to Storm. And I was like, wait, what just happened? Like, did you just trick me into saying Storm? And then after that, Storm would not look me in the eye for the rest of the night. He would not look at me, talk to me, anything. And I was like, she just did that. She just tricked me into saying Storm's name so she could tell Storm that I said his name. So then Storm and Ryan won't want to talk to me anymore, which is brilliant. It was hilarious. And I totally fell for it. But after that, I was like, all right, screw this. I'm done with Lauren. It is time. We need her out. Like, she is good at this shit, because I can't believe I just fell for that. I mean, and plus every conversation I'm having with everyone, she is in with everyone. So I'm like, she is playing this game
Mhm.
incredibly already. And like, we haven't even lost a challenge yet. Like, we cannot deal with it. Like, I'm not dealing with this shit. Like, either she needs to go or I need to go, because there's not enough room here for both of us.
So, but we have one last reward challenge today, and this is the floor is lava challenge. We have to lay the planks out, memorize the pattern, come back. Where were you in all this?
um, well, I was at the front. I usually was the person who did most of the physical. Like, if there was a physical aspect to the challenge, or like the skill aspect, I was usually the one leading the charge there. So I did the planks and everything. And I was frustrated with Lauren, or this was another thing that I was like trying to use against Lauren, because she had, I think Lauren and Brian, maybe someone, a few people messed up the memory stuff, but I remember being frustrated because I am like supposed to be bad at the memory, and I was even doing well in the memory portion. So I was like, what's wrong here? Like, why am I able to do this and other people aren't? Because I suck at memory.
Mhm.
And so when I realized that other people were, that was just more ammo that I was trying to use against Lauren. And that's really all I remember. I was, I mean, I was hyper focused on Lauren. She was not, I'm not, she did not lose the challenge for us. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, my brain was paying attention to her at this point, and like looking for reasons to tell people to vote her out. And I noticed she didn't remember what she was supposed to remember. So I tried using that against her. And that's all I got out of that challenge.
So we're kind of like near the late afternoon, day two. Rank for me, like from top to bottom, like how important people are to your game at this point on your tribe.
At the end of day two,
Yeah, so like you haven't like I guess we can talk about let's talk about the immunity challenge, right? And then we can kind of talk about end of day recap and stuff. You have your first immunity challenge. You've lost every single reward challenge. Like, are you feeling like you're gonna be going to travel soon?
oh yeah, yeah. It's actually really funny. I don't know if I've heard anyone else from Yellow talk about this, but the after we lost the milk crate challenge and before the immunity challenge,
Hmm.
Yellow had started playing. Like, that was when we all, I mean, the Fire Alliance or whatever. Oh yeah, by the way, I named myself the Ice King because apparently I was part of the Ice Alliance, and I didn't even know about it the entire game, because they were all part of the Fire Alliance, because I slept away from the fire. So I'm the Ice King. I dubbed myself the Ice King. Um, but so they had all been playing way before I had, but the game like really kicked up between that last reward and that first immunity. Like, I think we all just assumed, like, yeah, we're gonna lose, we're going to tribal council, and we were all gaming big time. I actually needed a rule clarification. There were a couple times I needed rule clarifications from Amos, where I was saying, like,
This is the Fire and Ice Alliance.
you all were the Fire Alliance and I was
Nothing
the
to do
Ice.
with a certain Game of Thrones series.
Yeah. But so crap, what was I saying?
Rule clarification from Amos.
Oh
You've
yeah, so
accepted.
I needed a rule clarification because I didn't know if my immunity was at the first tribal council period, or if it was at the first tribal council that I attended.
Hmm.
And if it had, so like if we won the first challenge, would I be vulnerable in the second immunity? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I needed that rule clarification because if it was only valid for the first one, this is how out of the loop I was. I was actually going to throw that first immunity challenge because I thought that was the only way I could get Lauren out. Like I needed to not be available to vote for to get Lauren out, I thought. So in the first one, I wanted, if I was only immune at the very first tribal council, then I wanted to go to the very first tribal council so I could utilize my immunity. So like there was a point where I was like refusing to go to the challenge until I got that rule clarification, and I think it like actually got delayed a little bit or something like that. But I remember telling Mike, I was like, I'm not. Mike was our tribe handler.
Yeah.
I was telling, I was like, I'm not going until you tell me this rule clarification because I need to know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were all like actively playing. And then because we assumed we were going to lose, everything told us we were going to lose. And then, man, when we won that thing, I freaked out so hard. So here, show my screen real quick, just real quick. So I felt like Michael Jordan when hitting like the game-winning shot right here. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, you can go back now. But I felt like Michael Jordan, like as soon as we won, I did that movement. I jumped up and I was like, because I realized like this is like a really important moment for me because like if us winning this challenge means like I could make the merge. If I lose this challenge, there's a good chance I'm not making the merge. So I was freaking out as soon as we won that. And I think it was Ryan. I don't know exactly who it was, but I'm gonna give credit to Ryan on that puzzle because I stepped back. I did not help with that final puzzle in the slightest bit. Because like again, I'm not a puzzle guy. And I remember watching Ryan's hands and seeing him put things into place, and I was like, "Let's go, bros! That's sweet." So I was super happy about winning that.
So we reached the end of day 2. Kind of. So now we'll do it. Walk me through like the most important to your game to least important to your game, and how you kind of saw alliances shaping up at this point.
Most important to my game was James for sure. Um, because he was who I felt the most comfortable talking to, and he was also my clearest line to getting Angela, who I thought Angela was the swing vote. I had no idea the entire time that Keenan like had issues with me. That was not on my radar in the slightest bit. Like I thought Keenan and I were working together because they were that group of 4 of Lauren, Storm, Ryan, and Dina. They were telling me that Keenan's getting voted out. Like they were all saying Keenan, like we're voting for Keenan. So I thought Keenan, like, why would Keenan work with this group that's throwing his name out? Like, obviously he's going to work with me, who like wants to go deep into the game with him. And I felt like we were having good conversations. And apparently my read was completely wrong. So James was number 1 because he was the key to Angela. Then Megs was probably number 2 for obvious reasons. We were really close. And then Keenan probably after that. And then Angela would be 4th to my game. And then after that would be Dina. I wanted to work with Dina. I didn't see her as like end game or like core alliance type person because she was so close to Lauren. But I did think if I could get Lauren out, that would free Dina up to work with. And then Storm would have been next because I felt like Storm and I had a pretty good relationship before Lauren got me to say his name and told him. But before that, him and I would joke around together a lot. And he reminded me of my best friend growing up named Alex. He really reminded me a lot of Alex. And so I really enjoyed Storm at that point, and I would have totally worked with him. And then Ryan and I didn't really talk too much. I think Ryan and I are just opposites. There's not really any right or wrong way to describe our relationship.
Storm was saying you the two of you got along great. You just game just wasn't part of their relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd agree with that assessment. But that was how I was acting with everyone because I thought the group just wasn't really playing super hard. So I was slow playing it because I thought I should, and also because I thought that's like kind of what the group was doing. And then with Ryan, in his interview with you, he kind of mentioned that he can feel people's aura and Like he could tell when people had like the it factor, and he said that I didn't have it. I would agree with that assessment. I didn't really have his aura on lock either. So, and it wasn't like a right or wrong way. It was just kind of, we were on the same team, and that was about it. We didn't like or dislike each other from my perspective. And then Lauren was, I needed Lauren out. She was at the very bottom in my game.
And
Sorry,
so,
Lauren.
and so, like, so you have that conversation with Lauren and Dina kind of midday, and at what point were you firmly like, okay, Lauren is my target?
I don't know if I don't think I actually like super said her name until we actually lost a challenge.
Okay.
So, but I remember spending that whole night thinking about what happens if they vote Keenan out, because that's what I thought was happening. I thought they were voting Keenan out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole night I was stressing out about Lauren getting Keenan out and trying to figure out how to make that not happen. Because if Keenan, in my mind, I'm thinking if Keenan goes, then I'm following him out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Talk to me about Megs. What were you talking with her about mostly?
I it's funny. I kind of didn't really talk to her that much either, which is probably funny to hear. Everyone
Mhm.
keeps saying it was so obvious that we were like each other's number ones, and I mean we kind of were, but I feel like it's been almost mythologized to a certain extent, like how close we were, because like after she got voted out and I wasn't told about it, I feel like that's when I got close to her. Like when I realized that she wasn't, like we were the two not told anything. That's when I really got close to her. But I mean, like I would just need, I felt like she was a link to getting Angela, and that's like kind of the main reason I wanted to interact with her. But I thought she was also closer to Dina and Lauren than she was. So because she was close to Lauren, I was kind of keeping her a little bit at arm's length, which was an incorrect read, obviously. But yeah, so Megs slept next to me that first night, maybe the second night too. I don't remember how I slept the second night, but we didn't talk a ton of game. I mean, I did. I talked to her a little bit and like told her my thoughts, especially about wanting to get Lauren out. But I the strongest two in the game at that point were Lauren and Dina. They were like the two that were really inseparable. And from my perspective, I thought Lauren had Storm under her wing and Dina had Ryan under her wing. And those four were the four that were really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other five were just kind of like by default talking
Mm-hmm.
to each other. So I did not feel like I was any closer to Megs than I was
Mm-hmm.
to Keenan. Like I felt like I was the same level of closeness to both of them,
Mm-hmm.
which Keenan did not feel that way, apparently.
So day 3, Drew is the first person voted out from the Noga tribe, which is someone you kind of like wanted to work with, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was sad about that.
From there, you have the challenge with to go find the balls in the haystack and move to a vertical table maze, and this eventually becomes a reward challenge due to issues. But how was this for you?
That challenge was fun. That was my favorite challenge in the entire game. Like
Mhm.
when we were walking up to that challenge, I saw the thing, the big maze thing, and I was like, dude, I'm doing that. That's gonna be so much fun. That thing's fucking cool. And like from my perspective, I've built a lot of challenges before, but I've never built anything like that.
Mhm.
So that was like the first challenge that they introduced to me that like I hadn't already built my own version of, if that makes sense. And so I was like, dude, this is about to be a brand new experience for me. This is going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
Mhm.
Um, and so I did that challenge. I did the maze part first. Um, like I was the first one on our team to get the ball through the maze. And kind of the way that I was perceiving challenges was that like me and Ryan were the challenge guys. And
Mhm.
the strategy was that I would, whatever the challenge was, I would go and do the thing first, and then I would talk to Ryan. And so I'd figure out whatever the learning curve was, and then I'd talk to Ryan, and so he didn't have to go through the learning
Mhm.
curve. He could like, finish it out really well. So that was my strategy for that challenge is I go first, figure out whatever the learning curve is, and then tell Dina and Ryan. I think Dina was the other person who did it.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
but it was fun.
your tribe wins, but and you eventually, I think you get what pizza.
Yeah,
Popcorns and
pizza.
popsicles and some wood out of it.
Yeah, the pizza and the firewood was good, and it's whatever. I still don't I think I think everyone thinks that they should have won that challenge. It's funny because I think all of the yellows think we deserved the win, and I think all of the blues think that they should have won that challenge, which I still don't understand the argument for why blue should have won that challenge, but I guess that's why they had to make it a reward. And as a game maker, I got it. I didn't really bat
Mhm,
an eye about it too much. Like if
mhm.
they say it felt unfair and they needed to make that adjustment, then good on them. It's their
And,
game; they get to do it.
and then you have the idle hands immunity challenge later on. And do you remember who you went up against on this?
Yeah, I went twice. I got 2 points, and I pretty much like at this point. By the time we had lost all of those rewards, I kind of said screw it and was like, all right, I'm just gonna take charge in these
Mhm,
challenges. Like I'm done sitting back. And
mhm,
so like for that one, I was like, I'm going twice. I know how to win this thing. I've done idle hands multiple times. I know how to like read the body language of people when they're about to like either throw it up or like lunge forward. So I'm pretty good with that. I went against Julie first. I think she actually stepped out of bounds, and that's how I won that challenge. And then I went against Josh in the last round and was able to knock his off quickly. And we ended up winning, which was cool to have the winning point.
and Julia ends up going home from that tribal council. Were things mostly quiet at camp, and things didn't really like start moving until you would lose the next challenge?
Yeah, so like I said, there was a ton of gameplay right before the first immunity
Hmm.
challenge because we all thought we were going to lose. And then after we won that, it kind of turned into kumbaya again, at
Hmm.
least from my perspective. Actually, probably from everyone's perspective because everyone thought they had their games
Hmm.
figured out and locked down. So I thought my five was me, Keenan, Megs, James, and Angela, and with the other four on the outs. And
Hmm.
then, you know, what actually happened, they all knew.
Hmm.
So everyone was pretty kumbaya until we actually lost.
Now you're still thinking that the hidden immunity idol is at tribal council. Were you searching at all, anyways, in the woods? Because I know there was a significant searching during day two.
Yeah, I would search, and honestly, I should have just searched more because since I couldn't, like looking back, I technically couldn't get in trouble for looking because I had immunity. Like
Hmm.
even if they were mad at me for looking, there's not really anything they could do
Hmm.
about it. So I should have just been looking like no matter what. But I was casually looking, but I wasn't talking to my alliance members about looking, which is definitely the way you need to handle looking for an idol. You need people to like watch your back, and I should have been talking to like Keenan and James and been like, hey, watch my back while I go look for this idol.
Hmm.
Or hey, Keenan, go look for that idol while I watch your back. And maybe that would have endeared me to Keenan more. I don't know. But again, yeah, no, I thought it was at tribal council. So I was like, I mean, I'll look in these trees where it might be, but I don't see a huge need to really stress myself out over it because I don't think it's here.
Um, yeah, I mean, Josh is speaking from experience, but you just never know when the idol's still out there because no one in your tribe has found it. So it's always worth making an effort.
Oh yeah, I did look at Blue. Josh, Sharif, Barb, and I, when we were over at Blue, we looked for sure for that thing, but never found that one either. It's also hard because
Hmm.
I didn't do any research, and I should have done research on Reelfoot and see like what the bag looks like. Ryan, he's really smart. I love what he did. I learned in his interview with you that he practiced with his cousin looking for the color of the bag that they usually use to hide. Oh, that's so smart. I'm 100% stealing that. Like if I
I
ever play one of these games again.
Idols were not hidden in bags my season.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
it was
well,
like a
still.
tan washcloth had covered it.
Yeah, also in my games, when I hide idols, I either put them wrapped in black cloth or the color of whatever team it's hidden. So
Mm,
I was not looking for tan at all. I was looking for either black or yellow,
yeah.
which I guess yellow is kind of close to tan, but
Hmm.
whatever.
So finally, the last challenge of the day. This is the table maze challenge, where you have to like take the balls, navigate through the chicken coop, through the PVC pipe, do a table maze. Where were you in this challenge?
I was the middle person holding the pipe. I thought the middle spot was going to be the most difficult
Hmm.
one of the three, so that's why I put myself there. When really, I think Ryan and I should have probably traded because I knew how to like catch it and stuff, but like I thought I would be doing that in the middle group, but then halfway through I realized like, wait, it's the last person who has to be able to catch it. So I think we just put ourselves, I thought about the challenge incorrectly and I volunteered for the wrong spot. If I had again done my research and seen how that challenge looks in older seasons, I think I would have known to
Hmm.
put myself in the same spot that Josh put himself. And then I think I could have maybe had that light touch a
Yeah.
little bit quicker than we ended up having it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was hard. Also, the maze was heavy, dude. That thing was freaking heavy. Um, we did like really good at first on the first ball. We got like really far through it the normal way you're
Hmm.
supposed to, and then we like dropped at the very end. And then someone, I think it was Dina, said to just bounce it, and I was like, okay, whatever. Let's just try to bounce it. And I kind of thought a swap was probably coming anyway, so it wasn't crazy important to win this one. Like I
Hmm.
wasn't sweating, and I thought I had my number, so I was like, it's not the end of the world to get Lauren out before she escapes into a swap. Little did I know it was me who was escaping into a swamp.
So your tribe ends up losing, and so walk me through the strategy and scramble that happens.
So this is when I think this is when I had the conversation with Storm. Like
Hmm.
I finally talked to Storm and told him what the thing about Lauren, like what from my perspective she had done to like pit us against each other. And I felt like that conversation went like really, really well. And at that's when I thought Storm and I were back on the same page. And now again, at this point, I'm again thinking about him like, okay, he's just like Alex. He's just like my best friend. You know, he's kind of quiet. He's the gentle giant, not really going too hard. He was obviously offended because I said his name, but I've cleared the air now, so me and Storm are good. Um, and then Megs was pushing Ryan. Megs was trying to get Ryan out. So when I talked to Storm, I told him that Megs wants to do Ryan, and Storm was like, "No, we can't do Ryan." So I was like, "Okay, then we won't do Ryan." And then I asked him if he was cool with doing Lauren, and he said, "Yeah, we can do Lauren." So Storm did not want to do Lauren, or Storm did not want to do Ryan,
Hmm.
but from what I remember, he was willing to do Lauren. So that's when I was like, yeah, dude, let's do Lauren. This is awesome. And so it was kind of funny from my perspective. Like what I thought was happening was Megs was one by one going to each person, telling them to vote for Ryan. And then one by one, I was following her down the line, telling people, no, don't vote for Ryan, vote for Lauren. So like,
Hmm.
I thought it was this like funny train happening where like Megs was accidentally telling people the wrong person, and I was spending all my time trying to save Ryan, is what I thought what was happening. Um, but really, they were all just playing me super hard, and they voted. They were just. I think Storms mentioned it a couple times where like him and Ryan literally had a conversation where Ryan was like, "Yeah, I'm supposed to be convincing you to vote for Lauren right now," and Storm's like, "Yeah, you're supposed to be convincing me to vote for Lauren right now," but really they weren't ever going to do that, which is pretty funny to look at in hindsight.
So how are you feeling walking the tribal council?
Oh, I feel king of the castle. I think I'm king of the castle, man. I thought it was going to be an 8-1 vote. I thought there were going to be 8 Lauren votes, not counting the medallion.
Hmm.
I thought there were going to be 8 Lauren votes, and one Lauren was going to vote for Ryan. You know, Lauren and I even had a conversation before tribal council. We were just bullshitting each other so hard, and we both knew we were bullshitting each other. I think I told her like, "Yeah, it's going to be Ryan. It's going to be Ryan," and in her head, she's like, "Little do you know, it's going to actually be Megs." Um, yeah, I went in super confident, wasn't even thinking about it. Like that's how confident I was. I was thinking about the idol. I spent the entire tribal council looking for the hidden immunity idol. When I was up there voting, I was looking for the hidden immunity idol. It like didn't even occur to me. And I thought worst case scenario, they are playing me and Keenan gets voted out. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I thought was like the worst case scenario. It did
Mm-hmm.
not was not on my radar in the slightest bit that Megs was even going to get one vote. So as soon as Megs got that first vote, I was like, oh fuck, this is not good. And then I saw a second one, I was like, oh shit, I am not thinking about this the same way that I thought I was. Like I can't think of a time in my life when I've been like that, just like completely wrong on like my read. Like usually I can figure these things out a little bit. Like I kind of know like when like things are going south. But man, I thought I was king of the castle. I thought I was the ice king, and I was not.
So Dina has a question. What would you have done if she had pulled you aside and let you know, like, hey, you think it's gonna be Lauren, but we're all voting for Mags? What would have happened if like that had been told to you?
It would have depended on when she told me. I can tell you that James could have told me. James could have gotten me to do it the easiest. If James had told me, I would have just been like, okay, cool, but it's not me next, right? So James could have told me. Dina could have told me. I think in hindsight, Dina did want to tell me because I remember having a conversation with her. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember seeing like a scared look on her face. And in hindsight, I think she was in the moment trying to decide if she would tell me or not.
Mhm.
Um, if Dina had told me, I would have been in her pocket for the rest of the game, 1,000,000%. Um, if they had told me like on day two, I would have started working to flip it so Megs didn't go. But like if Dina had told me like 30 minutes before tribal council, I would have just been like, all right, look, I'm yours. Like Dina, I am in your pocket. I'm
Mhm.
doing whatever you want. Like I will suck up to you till the cows come home. Because I saw the four of that group that was really strong. And so if I knew, and I thought Angela was the swing vote, but when I thought I had Angela, I thought I didn't need any of that. But turns out it was Keenan who was actually never willing to work with me in the beginning from the get go. So if Dina had told me like your plan's not working, Keenan's not voting with you, then I probably would have worked with Dina pretty heavy. And I certainly would not have targeted her first in that swap scenario.
And would you have spilled it if she had told it to you? Because I think Dina at this point, I remember telling me, and she says it here, that she felt like everything that she was telling your way was going to everyone else. So she didn't feel like she didn't feel comfortable like that a secret would have stayed secret.
Um, well, I guess I don't understand why it needed to be like a crazy
Mm-hmm.
secret blind side or whatever because they had control of the idol, and they had everything already locked down. If yeah, I mean if Dina had told me like 30 minutes before tribal, no, I wouldn't have said anything. To like if they convinced me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dina's saying like we knew where that was, so it felt a little dirty.
Yeah, if whoever told me convinced me that there was nothing I could do about it, then no, I wouldn't have told
Mhm.
Megs. And so like if Dina had told me like 30 minutes before tribal council, um, I would have felt really icky about it and it would have sucked and I would have been really upset. But at the end of the day, I would have gone along with the numbers
Mhm.
because I do think like in that pre first swap, you just need tribe cohesion. You need
Mhm.
everyone on the same page so no one flips, man. And if you put someone on the outs, then if you give them a reason to flip, then they're going to flip, which is what happened. They all gave me like an absurdly obvious reason to flip. Like I was so low on the totem pole, I couldn't even be bothered to tell the plan. Like that's how low I was on the totem pole. Um, and I thought it was obvious that Keenan and James were also really low on the totem pole. And that's what I was telling them. Yeah. But that's what I was telling you. I would have conversations with them like you are not high on their totem pole. You are not like in on their priority list. Like Angela's for the plan that I proposed, the only person like it kind of didn't benefit was Angela. And even with her, it was just neutral. And I
Mhm.
figured I had her because I had James. So like it never occurred to me that Keenan and James wouldn't vote with me because to me it was so obvious that like I was offering a top five spot and those other people were offering you like, potentially pre-merge, which ended up happening. Well,
So, had Dina told you about the plan, and the same swap happens, right? It's Barbara, Josh, Sharif, then you, James, Keenan, Dina. Do you target an original blue, or do you still flip and try to take out like Keenan at that point?
um, if I was told about the Megs vote and I voted for Megs,
Hmm.
um, I'd probably defer to whatever Dina wanted. At that point, I would probably see it as yellow can just continue winning, and now I need to ingratiate myself with Dina, who is in the power four. And like, if I can create a scenario, or if I can like actualize a scenario of like Dina versus Lauren, then I'll be one of Dina's troops, is kind of
Hmm.
what I would have done in that scenario.
Hmm.
But when I couldn't, like, when no one could be bothered to tell me the plan, why would I work with any of them? Like, for me, it felt obvious that if I didn't flip immediately, then the three of them were just going to be like, yeah, we can vote out Casey. We don't care. He was supposed to go next anyway.
So, talk to me about the fallout back at camp as you're leaving that tribal council.
Yeah, it was awkward. It was really, really awkward for me. James had like, as soon as it happened, James like turned around and looked at me. He was like, "I'll explain everything," and then he kind of did, but they all just said like, "Yeah, it happened last minute. We there wasn't anything we could do to change it." And in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, right. That did not happen last minute. You're straight up
Yeah.
lying to me still." I felt those four for the past 3 days as like a tight alliance. Like we had the numbers. Like there's no way that those four could have convinced the five like last minute. Like you've been lying to me for the past 3 days. Like don't try to bullshit me. But I mean, they were saying their niceties just like I was saying my niceties. I was telling them like, look, guys, I'm strong. I'm yellow strong, yellow strong. But this was before the swap.
Hmm.
So we all just kind of said our niceties, but I don't think anyone actually, they didn't believe me and I didn't believe them. And
Hmm.
I was just praying for a swap.
And well, you're in luck because Angela gets taken away and she comes back and you have swapped tribes. And so you
Mhm.
make your way to the new Inoga tribe, who has what I hear they love this campsite. And your new tribe will be Barbara, Josh, and Sharif, with you, Dina, and Keenan and James.
Yeah, it's actually funny. Dina, I'm going to tell a story that's I'm sorry about this, but this was my feeling in the moment of so on the way to the challenge, on the way to the swap, like I think we actually got like a tree mail or something. We all like tentatively knew we were probably about to swap. On the way there, I talked to Dina. I had a conversation with Dina, and she told me, she was like, man, you're playing too slow. You got to be active. You got to be talking to people. You got to be the first one to talk to people. You got to be quick. And so like when she said that to me, I in my head I looked at her and I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to do that. That's a good idea. So like she was like telling, like on the way to a swap, she was like, you really got to play quick. You got to do this stuff fast. And so in my head, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to do that. That's a good idea. And then as soon as the swap happened and I went over to Josh, I mean, this is like 10 seconds in, I'm going over and I'm pulling on the back of Josh's shirt. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I whispered to him, I was like, I'm yours. I'm yours. I'm in your pocket. Like I wasted absolutely no time. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, I just have to beat Dina to the punch. Like whoever gets there first, that's who's going to be like with the Blues because I'm not. So as long as I get there before her, then I'm good. Which was good thing I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me no time at all. I remember I was like, I'm getting here before anyone else does. And it was funny because I think Dina started talking to them on the walk back, but I was just laughing because I was like, I already got there. I see what you're doing, but I already did it. I took your advice. And then what was really funny, Dina, after that, probably an hour later, Dina, you pulled me aside and you were like, you know what, Casey? I think you're playing a little too fast. You got to slow down. You're talking to too many people over here. And I was like, what's that from? Do you want me to play fast or do you want me to slow down? Because it kind of seems like you just don't want me here. And so that was when I was really like, yeah, I'm going for Dina first. If they're at all willing to vote for Dina, then I'm voting for Dina.
So Ryan has a question. So at the swap at this point, do you know that Ryan has an idol?
um,
Like, had you
Mm.
seen his idol or had an inkling that he had found the hidden meat at the original Kiwanda camp?
I don't think I knew about it at original Yellow because again I thought I was looking for the idol at Tribal Council and then we swapped like immediately after that. So it was Dina. I don't think Dina even told me. I think Dina told Josh and Josh told me maybe. I'm pretty sure it was one of the original Blues that told me that Dina told them about the idol. And then I do think Dina told me that Josh was collecting things or that Ryan was collecting things though. So I
Mhm.
knew he was collecting bones and feathers. And so that's when the fake idol kind of got onto my radar because I
Mhm.
knew he was collecting things. And then, yeah,
So
but no,
how
I don't think I knew at
so
Yellow.
so how is the rest so you're grabbing Josh's shirt, you're saying, "Hey, I'm jumping, take me with you." Talk me through your thoughts on Josh, Barbara, and Sharif.
Um, well, Josh especially, I just mesh with him so hard. I mean, there's a lot of different personalities that play inside of this game.
Josh agrees with this sentiment.
I agree with that. I think pretty much any scenario, almost any scenario where Josh and I are on the same tribe, we're going to click pretty quickly, just because I think our worldviews are really similar. And I don't think I had similar worldviews with everyone out there, but Josh is someone that I did. We have very much like if he like one day becomes a social worker, I will not be at all surprised. By the way, I'm a social worker for anyone who doesn't know. If Josh ever began, he'd be fantastic at it. And so it's just a personality that I mesh with, personality type that I mesh with extremely easily. And then when I found out he was so young, I was like astonished. I would have guessed he was my age. And then Sharif, he's kind of that same way about it's really easy to get along with him. He can kind of be intimidating to look at from a distance, especially in a competition when you're going head to head against him. But when you get to like sit down and talk with him, he's a really cool, down to earth guy. Is he from New York? He's like a city guy, and I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, so like he reminded
Yes.
me of like my city friends where
Queens, New York.
yeah, he does, you know, city people, they don't beat around the bush with stuff. They'll let you know what they're thinking, and he does that, but he does it in a nice way. So he reminded me of a lot of my friends back home too, kind of in a similar way that Dina did. Um, and so I got along with both of them just like magically. Plus, I was looking to get along with them.
Hmm.
Um, and then Barb, she was she was my garlic bread mama out there. That's what I called her. Her and I all kept bonding over garlic bread. It was tough for me to bond with some people, but like Barb and I, we would talk about food. Um, and it did kind of seem like her and Josh were really close together. So getting in good with Josh meant that I got in good with Barb. Like if Josh didn't like me, then Barb wasn't going to like me. So I needed to establish something with Josh first, um, to before I could start building something with Barb.
Were you having any conversations with sorry, with James and Keenan?
Oh, I was so pissed at them. I was not. No, I was so mad, dude. That night, I was going scorched earth. I haven't really watched much of any of the footage from the game yet, but I want to go back and watch that confessional that I had after because man, I said I didn't just spill the tea about yellow. I took the entire pot and I dumped it out, man. I was ready to throw every challenge and vote out Dina, then Keenan, then James that first night. But I got over the stuff about James pretty quickly. Like was mad about James for like an hour, and then after that I was done. But with Keenan, I really didn't talk to Keenan hardly at all after that because I had so for me, I had felt like I had spent the first 3 days getting the target off of Keenan. Like I felt like I had spent a lot of energy keeping the target off of Keenan because they were telling me that he was the vote because it was Megs and they weren't telling me the real plan, but the plan they were telling me was that it was Keenan. So I felt like I had expended a ton of energy trying to help him, and he chose the people who were throwing his name out there. So I was upset and I was pissed, and I was like, you know what? If we can get Keenan, I gave him like the option that would potentially get him far in the game, and he chose the other one. So I'm cool voting Keenan out. But I wanted to get Dina first. Dina was my like top priority because she was the best. I mean, she really is incredible. She needs to play another one of these things, and
Hmm.
she could win it all. No, if we didn't get her out, I think she would have hid behind Lauren perfectly and swooped in for the win. Kind of, that's not exactly what Angela did, but kind of in a similar fashion. And
Hmm.
it was just I kept telling the Blues. I had no idea that Josh and Dina knew each other, so I was telling all of them that Dina was Parvati. That's how I like envisioned and was like viewing Dina from then
Hmm.
on out, because her social game was just absolutely incredible. Like everyone loved Dina, um, and she was just too good, and we had to get her out first.
So, anything else you want to talk about with day three, or do you want to move into day four?
Um, we can skip to day four.
Yeah, so day four, you have your opening immunity challenge. This is the fishing for immunity, where you race out in a variety of ways over water, collect fish, bring it back, spell a word. You also have to make your own raft, and your tribe makes an exquisite raft.
Yeah, we so for from a like since I make my own games, I kind of try to view this from the lens of like how would I design a challenge, and they really should have given us access to the water.
Hmm.
When I don't know if they've done this challenge in the past, but like on CBS Survivor, they had access to the water while they were building the raft. We didn't have access to the water while we were building it, so we had no idea like if this thing is going to sink or float. And I've never built a raft before, so I have no idea. And like we were kind of trying to decide like, well, what do we do? And I was like, well, I don't want to expend a ton of energy on something that's not even going to float, so let's just take it easy. I mean, and just wrap all of these things up. And I know I'm good at paddling. I have a ton of paddling experience. So if you just put me on that thing, as long as it floats, I'll get us there. And just, but if this doesn't float, then nothing we build is going to float. So let's not extend the energy. um, but yeah, and then so we did the challenge. Dina and I, the placement of this was just terrible. Like we were all in the wrong positions, I think. Um, and Dina and I can't swim. Like I'm not a good swimmer at all. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Indiana. We don't have places to swim here. I went to a small high school without a swimming pool. Like I can float and swim around, but I'm not quick at all. And it turned out, and I don't think Dina's good at swimming either. Yeah, like, and then oh man, it was so funny because we had the raft, and we were like setting up the challenge, and we were like moving the raft into the water, and like this was before the challenge started, and I just pushed down on the raft while I was in the water a little bit, and all of the water just went into the holes of the bamboo, and I was like, fuck, this thing is not going to float. And I looked over at Tina. I was like, we're going to be swimming with this thing. So, probably two of our worst swimmers were on the hardest swimming leg of the challenge. And um, luckily, we figured out the puzzle in time. Still don't really know how we did that.
Yeah, I always love watching the other tribe nearly have it, scramble it, and you're just like, oh wow, it's truly anyone's game now.
Yeah, and what's funny is I was the one that the phrase I kept putting together was at sea victory. The correct phrase was victory at sea, but I kept thinking I basically had the grammar wrong. Like my brain was so frazzled, I couldn't think about the grammar correctly. Like I had the words right, but I kept putting at sea victory instead of
Mhm.
victory at sea. So that was funny. Whenever I think it was James who realized, like, okay, yeah, you're right. Your grammar just sucks. And then he switched it around. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Were you working the puzzle too?
Oh yeah, I was on the
Okay.
puzzle, which again was a bad spot for me because I'm not good at puzzles or word scrambles or anything like that. Like I should have been maybe the runner. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know what I should have been.
So your tribe
Oh
went
yeah,
to.
and then after that's when I told Megs that Ryan had the or Megan that Ryan had the idol. And
Mhm.
this was apparently the beginning of the Casey versus Ryan thing that I spent most of the game not knowing that Ryan and I had a rivalry. I had
Mhm.
to be told about the rivalry later. But apparently this is when it started. And what I actually said to Megs, I went up to him or went up so like we won and we were like keeping an eye on Ryan because we didn't want him to pass something to Dina. And then I saw that Megs was like just kind of by herself, and I didn't really care if the yellows saw me whisper
Mhm.
something to her. So I went up and I told her, "Hey, I've flipped to blue. Ryan has the idol. Don't vote for Ryan." Like that's what I was telling her, not to vote for Ryan when I was
Mhm.
saying that he has the idol, because I wanted them to force the tie. Like they could have forced a tie there.
Mhm.
I wanted them to try and force the tie because if blue could get the numbers, I was with blue. Like that. That's what I was trying to convey to her. And it wasn't like Megan specifically. Like if I had access to talking to Bash, I would have told the same thing to Bash.
Storm's like Storm's saying, as some other people might have heard this too.
Oh yeah, no, the yellows were there, but she was the only blue that I like had access to. Like if Bash had been standing there, I would have said the same thing to Bash. Or
Mm.
if Carly had been standing there, I would have said the same thing to Carly. But Megan was just, I don't know. From what I remember, I saw Megan, I saw an opportunity. I was like, all right, tell her don't vote for Ryan and try to get the Blues to stick together. That's what I was trying to convey, but that didn't work.
Well, Carly ends up being voted out on the Blue Tribe, and then you have your next immunity challenge today, and this is the Pete's Palooza, involving running, trivia, and basketball.
Oh my God. That challenge sucked. And as soon as I walked up to it, I ran the farthest leg, the leg six, the like the longest one. And as soon as I walked up and they like started explaining the challenge, I was like, God damn it, I have to run. I knew I was gonna have to run the longest one. But I was like, well, there's absolutely like no opportunity for me to do anything else in this challenge. Like I have to just do the longest one, which I guess was fine, whatever. But it was annoying that I kind of constantly had to go into like whatever the most difficult part of a challenge was. I usually had to be the one to like pick up that role. It was so. I do want to tell this story about Lauren, though. Man, so I'm a big Lauren fan. I hope that's clear that like I have an immense amount of respect for Lauren, and so when I like call her my rival and say she's my rival. Hey,
Yeah, she calls you your
so
rival too. You collected rivals this game.
it's very much a compliment whenever I'm like saying she's my rival and stuff. And like it totally like manifested itself in this challenge so hard because her and I both ran the longest leg. And then we got out there and neither of us knew the answer to the question on the box. And like I realized like whoever goes first, the other person gets to see whether they're correct or not, you know? So I was thinking like, well, I'm not going to answer this question first. Lauren, you go, you answer it so I can see like if you're right or not. And we had like a little standoff there for a good like at least 2 to 5 minutes, which is a long time in the middle of a challenge. We were just standing there, and I could tell that the um, crew members who were standing there monitoring, they didn't know what to do. They were like, "Well, one of you has to go first," and me and Lauren just looked at each other like, neither of us is going. Her and I get each like we know where each other stands with the other one, and we're not,
Mhm.
neither of us is budging here. You've got a immovable object meeting of whatever that phrase is here. So like they had to actually change the rules of the challenge in that moment because Lauren and I weren't budging. And then what was funny, so I got there first, so I was allowed to answer the question in the box first, and I got it correct. The correct answer was B on the box. You could choose A, B, or C. I chose B. I saw that I was correct, and I was so close to looking at Lauren and saying the correct answer is B, and then running off. So I wanted to tell her the correct answer, so she would question herself. Like Casey would never tell me the correct answer, and then she'd choose one of the other two. I wish I had done it so bad, but in the heat of the moment, it just didn't really register until a little bit later that
That would have been a great moment if you had.
it would have been so fun. It would have been like the perfect encapsulation of like Casey versus Lauren.
Mhm. Um, Unfortunately, your tribe does not win this challenge. It comes down to the basketball, and Ryan ekes it out at the very end to beat you on the other side. So, at this, like, so talk to me about the strategy back at camp. How much strategy had been formalized prior to the vote, and how much was going down during the scramble?
So, well, before I say that, I want to point out something that Ryan did that this was like, so obviously stuff happens later with the fake idol and
Yeah.
Storm and Ryan that really upsets me, which I'm totally fine now.
Mm.
But the something happened with Ryan that kind of led to my negative feelings. I had a lot of really negative feelings, and like I was in a very bad headspace like during the game.
Hmm.
And right after winning that challenge, Ryan looks over directly at me and he goes, and he mouthed by and he waved at me like he was like, Casey, you're getting voted out now, goodbye. And like it felt like he was celebrating him winning that challenge because he, in his mind, he thought I was getting voted out. Like
Hmm.
that's how sure he was I was getting voted out. And so in my head I was thinking, what why are you doing that at me? I like
Hmm.
why is Ryan mad at me right now? I spent the entire time trying, like that entire first vote, like trying to save him because like
Hmm.
people were throwing his, or Megs was throwing his name out and I was getting it off him. So I was like, I don't understand why Ryan's like upset with me here, but whatever. Maybe he wasn't looking at me or something. I don't know. But so that happened. And then that kind of like ignited my fire for like, all right, you know what? I know you're close to Dina and Dina's about to get voted out. So that kind of like added to that fire of mine, I guess.
Hmm.
But for the most part, in terms of strategy, I was really just selling myself to Blue. Like I was selling myself to
Hmm.
Josh, selling myself to Sharif, selling myself to Barb as like, look, I'm your alls. Like I'll do whatever you want. Like anything that you want, I'm gonna do it. And like I was really trying to sell myself as valuable to their game to the point to the extent of like I said, you can tell them that you're voting for me. Like throw me out as the decoy vote so they don't vote for any of you all. And so like that's how I was trying to like show my value to them. Like I'm so loyal that like I'm even willing to fall on my sword for you all. So like worst case scenario, if Dina has an idol,
Hmm.
it's me who's going to take the hit. Like that
Hmm.
and that ends up being a theme. Like while I'm with them, I keep telling them like, look, I'm willing to take the hit. Like I really am. And at this point, honestly, I felt like I was playing with house money. Like I truly should have been voted out in that Megs spot. Like Megs took the hit for me. I It should have been reversed. Like I should have gotten voted out there. So for a lot of the game,
Yeah. Josh isn't acknowledging you lucked out more than just about anyone in this game.
oh yeah, absolutely. Like I was playing with house money is so hard because like I should have been voted out. And then I when I got over there and I saw like, you know, especially when I met Josh and how well we clicked and Sharif, how well we clicked, then I was starting to click really well with Barb at this point. I was like, man, I told them this a few times. Like, I'm an emotional guy. I really am. There's not like, I do think about the game strategically. I think I can think about the game strategically, and I try to, but
Hmm.
there's also like a very real emotional aspect for me. And on yellow, I did not feel comfortable. I felt really, really ostracized. I felt like people didn't like me. I felt like to a certain extent people were kind of mean. And I couldn't figure out because that doesn't really happen in my normal life, you know.
Hmm.
I get along with most people that I meet in my real life, so I didn't understand what was happening, and it was just such a huge breath of fresh air whenever I got to these three blues who like just welcomed me with open arms. And I told them multiple times, like, look, the fact of the matter is, like, you all gave me a home when I did not have a home. And I want to repay that to a certain
Hmm.
extent. You know, I'm not gonna lose the game entirely because
Yeah.
for you. Like I wasn't gonna go to the end with Josh and or Sharif or probably even Bard because you know they're gonna beat me. I'm not going to the end with them necessarily, but like I am gonna do everything I can to help them make it far into the game, and really be in their alliance. And so I really wanted them to know that. And I just really took a super emotional approach to it and let them know, like, look, if you all want to vote for any of the yellows, I am on board. You could not get anyone more excited to vote for a yellow. And you know, since because I was being so genuine, they bought it and they bought what I was selling because it was a fair price.
So, how many were you expecting it to be a 4-3 vote with 3 votes on you, or how many times do you expect to see your name come up?
Um, so yeah, also at this point, I don't really care if I get voted out to a certain extent because it's like, look, either like they're all just playing me again and I don't realize it, and in which case I have no reason to even be in this game and I deserve to get voted out, so that's fine. Um, or they're going along with the plan and the votes that I see don't matter at all. But what we were doing was we were icing Keenan out big time. So like what I was telling James and Dina, and I think I even just straight up said this to Keenan, was that I'm voting for Keenan. I told all of them I was voting for Keenan because I was pissed that I had spent 3 days trying to help him and he did nothing. From my perspective, he did
Mhm.
nothing to repay it. That's what I was pitching, with the idea of if Dina does have an idol, then she wouldn't play it if like Ryan snuck it to her somehow.
Mhm.
Because we knew out of any of them, Dina did like she did have access to an idol. She
Mhm.
very much did, especially because Ryan was the one who had it. So like we wanted, from my perspective, we wanted her to feel comfortable and like it was going to be Keenan. So I wasn't talking to Keenan at all because I was trying to sell the fiction of I'm pissed at Keenan in case he's voting for Keenan, and that means the other Blues have to vote for Keenan if they want to stay
Mhm.
alive. But in reality, I would have done whatever the Blues wanted to do. I was telling them, like, I think we should vote for Dina. Like, Dina's the one if you're asking me my opinion on who it should be Dina, because we can't let Dina and Lauren reconnect or they're just going to steamroll. But if you all wanted to do one of the others, you could. And I think they accepted and I completely stand. It sucks for Dina because I love Dina. She's great. But I do think that was the correct move. And I think they saw that it was the correct move. So
Mhm.
it wasn't too hard.
So Dina gets voted down in a 4-2-1-1 vote. You catch one vote from Keenan. Dina and James both vote for Keenan. So effectively, James and Keenan are both blindsided as well as a result of this.
Yeah.
Um,
It was funny because I think I looked over at James afterwards, and I think I said the same thing to him that he said to me after the next vote. I was like, "I'll tell you in a little bit," or something. I said something like that, so I kind of like repaid the favor. He laughed. It was like a joke between us at
mhm.
that point. And then Keenan was doing. It was so funny watching like the way Survivor makes like creates these role reversals and the like Shakespearean stories that get told of like so Keenan was saying all of the exact same things that I had just said the day before after Megs. Like it was so and then I was saying the same thing that Keenan was saying. Like we like the role reversals was
Mhm.
just like very storybook and
Mhm.
interesting.
So at this point, we're down to the final 12. Are you thinking like, hey, the merge is coming?
Yes, I think. Oh yeah, so I wanted to throw challenges. By the way, like it was 100% like I was telling Sharif, Josh, and Barb like we have to win one, but after that, let's throw the rest of them. So no, so yeah, I thought the merge was happening at 10 because someone I don't remember who pointed out the torches thing, but
Mhm.
somehow that got on my radar with
Mhm.
the hole for the torches at tribal
Mhm.
council. There were only 10, so the logic could be figured out that we were merging at 10.
Mhm.
And so when we were at 14, I was like, as long as we win one, then we can lose the other three and vote out Dina, then Keenan, then James. And that way we're guaranteeing that Blue has the numbers at the merge. And then I could get my shot at Lauren eventually. But I think I took my like the go ahead from Sharif. Before every challenge, I always looked at Sharif and asked if he wants me to throw it, or I would ask if I could throw it. Like, do you care if I throw it? Blah blah blah. And he always said no, don't throw it. So I never actually did it, but I 100% would have, and kind of think I should have just thrown some of those challenges, so we would have been able to
Mhm.
vote some of them off. But yeah.
Storm has a question. You mentioned earlier that you felt like the yellow tribes were being mean. Do you want to elaborate anything on that?
Um, so the mean thing didn't really come until later, but I mean, so the reality was I just wasn't in the alliance, and I
Mhm.
think that this is just something that happens in every season of
Yeah.
Survivor, and it's also just something that happens with humans. Like this is something I see in my work as a social worker and like watching social dynamics in groups. There's always a scapegoat in a group. Like groups pretty much need them to function, and I think because I wasn't in that core alliance, I became the scapegoat. And so I wasn't talked to very much. I think people were perceiving that I wasn't talking to them, but my perception was that they weren't talking to me. And I felt like I was trying to have like conversations and like I was reaching out to have strategic conversations, but nobody was like actually engaging in them. So when they weren't engaging in them, I wouldn't push having the conversation. Does
Mhm.
that kind of make sense? And so like I felt like I had spent like 2.5, 3 days of like I just didn't know where my place was.
Mhm.
It's because I was a scapegoat. I didn't know that I was the scapegoat. I was just why am I having such a hard time connecting with these people? Like, I'm not having these really deep conversations that I think they're having like with each other, and I don't feel comfortable engaging in some of these conversations in ways that I would engage like in my real life. And it really was a unique position for me because that does not happen in my real life. I'm usually able to engage
Mhm.
really easily. And so mean isn't the right word,
Yeah.
but it I could feel that something was off and I didn't know what. And then as soon as Megs got voted out, that's when it all just like hit me like a ton of bricks of like, oh, they've been lying to me for 3 days. That's why I've been feeling this way. They've been lying to me and they don't actually like me. And I don't know why they don't like me. I'm not really sure like what has distinguished me as the person to not be liked in this group. Um, and so there was a lot of confusion on my part that I think I interpreted as um, meanness, I guess, even though I
Mhm.
now would not use the word
I,
mean.
I have never felt more isolated or alone than playing a live rally game, which is weird. It's just like when you're like in the minority, apart from your allies, and no one's talking to you. I've never felt more alone, and it was just a weird feeling for me that experienced really for the first time in these games.
Hmm. And then, and it's also just weird when like, because I felt like there were multiple people that I was like going out on a limb to like help and protect and like try to work with. And then when I found out that they were just lying to me the entire time, because I still don't understand like why I wasn't told about the Megs thing. Like,
Mhm.
I really still don't understand that. So like in the moment, it felt like the only reason they wouldn't tell me is because they don't like me. Like that's
Mhm.
the only thing that makes sense is like they just don't like me or they just don't care to be around me at all. And you know, when you feel like people don't like you, in our minds, we perceive that as like, well, I guess they're just kind of mean to me, like,
Mhm.
you know. So whereas with the blues, then I was hit with the like extreme contrast of like the blues, Josh Barb and Sharif. They were engaging me like crazy, and I was like able to really connect with them like I thought I would, like I was hoping to connect with like the yellows and stuff. So also I think just that stark contrast of like at yellow I felt so isolated and confused, and at blue I felt, you know, grounded and solidified. So um, I think that contrast also kind of created that perception in my head.
So, getting back to this upcoming swap, were you aware of the muni advantages that were put in the game?
No, which by the way, I think that's the coolest advantage. I
Hmm.
think they should implement that into like CBS Survivor and
Hmm.
like Australian Survivor and stuff.
Hmm.
I love that advantage. I think it has so much like maneuverability and just like, you know, one of the worst things in the game is when people get swap screwed and
Hmm.
there's not really a way around that. But like having the mutiny advantages in there addresses like swap screwed people getting swap screwed. So I love, like when I found out that those were a thing, I was like, that's awesome. That is a great freaking addition to the game.
So walk me through your thought process walking into the next challenge and everything goes down at once.
Um, oh yeah, this is another one of those times where I'm just like not really even sure what's happening.
Hmm.
Like that whole thing was a blur to me. I remember at one point it was like a couple minutes after we had already swapped and we had our new buffs and everything. And I was like, wait, what's Storm doing over here? Like, why is Megan here? What's going on? And then like it
Hmm.
took me a while to realize that we had even swapped because like we walked in and they were talking to Keenan, and then Amos said drop your buffs, and then they kept saying like Keenan, do what the note says, do what the note says. And so I think I thought that Keenan was going to get to choose the new tribes or something
Mhm.
like that. Like I thought Keenan was going to get to rearrange the tribes for some reason. And so I was just telling him like, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know what it is, but don't do it. Um, um, and then like Josh used it and he came back over. And so I was just like looking around like, what the heck is going on? Like my color didn't change. I was still with Josh, Barb, and Sharif. And I think I was like trying to tell Keenan, like at some point I had made the connection that he had the opportunity, he could swap over if he wanted to. And I think I did tell him like, don't do it. We're going to win challenges. We're going to win challenges. But I was so confused by that entire thing. I also didn't think we were going to swap. Like I thought we were riding that tribe out to the end,
Mhm.
or out to 10 is what I thought we were riding it out to. So I was surprised by the swap, surprised by the advantages. I was completely blindsided by the whole thing.
And you go straight into your next immunity challenge, and this is where you have to hold the weights above your heads, and you have to have pass the weights along, and you end up winning. Unfortunately, due to more of a technical mistake made by Angela. But how was this challenge for you?
I think we would have won this challenge
Hmm.
pretty much regardless. Yeah, when I listened to Megan's interview, I was surprised whenever she said she thought we were going to lose it, because I was standing next to Megan, and shoulder strength is actually one of the things I trained for going into the game because I knew that the water bucket challenge was going to be one of
Hmm.
the ones probably. It was like a staple. So I was completely fine during that challenge, and I was like standing next to Megan, who she's pretty small and like
Hmm.
a skinnier person. So like if she needed to pass one off, I was going to take them from her. But I was even asking her, I was like, if you need to give me some, you can give them to me. And she was like, nope, I'm good. Like she seemed totally fine to me. So I know I wasn't dropping and I could absolutely take more weights. I don't think Sharif was dropping. I don't think Storm was dropping. So, I mean, in my mind, as long as Storm didn't throw the challenge on purpose, then I think we win that almost
Hmm.
regardless. Because if people were tired, I was just going to take their weight, and I think I could have gone for a long time in that.
Did you see the handoff between Storm and Ryan?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I didn't buy it either. I was like, yeah, fucking right. Ryan is absolutely a self-interested player. There's no way he's passing that thing off, especially before they've lost a challenge. Are you kidding me? Why would he like? Ryan's about to go to tribal council. Why is Ryan passing his idol off?
Hmm.
So I didn't buy that at all.
So these swap tribes are interesting because you look at the Tuanu 3.0 and it's Angela, James, Keenan, Lauren, Ryan, and Bash. And so it's almost the original Yellow tribe back there with Bash. And so seeing that tribe go to tribal council, what were you predicting?
Uh, just like everyone else, I thought Bash was a goner. Um, I was hoping they would keep James. That's the only thing I was hoping for. I was like, I just hope James makes it to the merge because
Mhm.
he is the only one in that group that I might maybe be able to pull over because Angela at now to this point in the game has specifically not chosen James twice.
Mhm.
She specifically didn't choose him at the when she made the tribes, and she specifically didn't choose him
For the advantage.
when she could have given him the mutiny advantage. Yeah. So I was like, I could get him because you know to this point, James and I have had pretty much only we're on neutral territory, whereas he might not be on neutral territory with the rest of the yellows.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I just didn't want it to be James, and of course it was James.
Well, before we get that, looking at your tribe, right? It's again you have Barbara, Sharif, and Josh. What you will learn is now the Holy Trinity because that's what something Storm brings over. You're meeting
That's
Megan.
genius. By the way, Storm, I want to give you like such mad props on that. That was absolutely beautiful. I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker too.
You're meeting Megan for the first time, and you're reconnecting with Storm. So, kind of walk me through this evening with this new tribe.
So I was excited to meet Megan because, like I said, I wanted to work with her from before the game started. Like I wanted to pick her and the tribe pick them. So I was really excited to be in a group with her. Um, at this point, I think I was fine with Storm. I mean, we enjoyed each other, especially after we cleared the air about Lauren. Um, and I didn't have like bad blood against him, like hardly at all. He showed me the idol. So the rest of the people like walked off and were talking or something, and Storm showed me the fake idol, and it was a little squirrel head inside of the little mesh bag, and you couldn't get the squirrel head out of the bag. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, this is not a freaking idol. Are you kidding me? Like, they would not make a hidden immunity idol that you can't even get out of the bag. Like, it couldn't, we physically could not get it out of the bag. And so I was like, there's no way. I mean, like, maybe he's got it, the real idol, in his bag, but this thing is not the idol. But he did let me read the note, which was the most important piece of information that I really wanted out of my conversations with Storm. Was I wanted to read the note, and that's when I found out that the idols expire at 6. So I got like extra information that way, and that's what I was really trying to do. But before that, so Megan and Storm had to go back to Yellow Camp to like get their stuff or something, and then me and the Holy Trinity were back at Blue, and we were searching so hard for the idol. Like, that's when we all had like a 30-second conversation. We all came clean about everything that we know. And Barb had found multiple clues, I guess, and I still don't understand what her clues were, because she didn't actually have them. She was like trying to remember them, and she had really like fixated on something about a fern. She kept saying it was underneath a fern, and so I was like, I don't know, even know what a fern is, but like, so I was just like, I'm just going to start like looking under everything, and we were scouring really hard for the idol. But obviously we never found it, and I ended up getting like really, really bad poison ivy from
Mm.
this search. And what happened was, we think, so I was talking to like the doctors or whatever,
Oh,
and we
gosh.
think it got on my hands, and then it got on my chest, and then it, like, I was sweating because it was so hot, and the oils like sweated down and collected in my waistline, the waistline of my pants. So that was like day 4 or something. So for the next 2.5 days, the poison ivy was just like sopping in my pants line, and I had like a really bad infection from it that I ended up having to go to the doctor for, and that sucked.
Wow.
And I didn't even get an idol out of it.
This is why when I was outside, when I was playing Real Fun, I'm just like, I remember my camp had this huge like green forest there. I'm just like, I don't know what any of those plants are. I'm just gonna assume all of them are poisonous. I'm just gonna avoid it like the plague.
Yeah, I was not thinking about that at all. I still don't even know where the blue idol was. They've like tried explaining it to me, and from what I can tell, where I think it was, that log was infested with spiders. So I was like purposely avoiding that log, because I had seen like multiple like big brown spiders. I don't remember what they were called, but I saw a black widow spider, a female with the red hourglass and everything. And as soon as I saw that thing, I was like, yeah, I'm not going over there.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't either. So I don't blame you. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else you want to bring up about this bringing the new tribe together?
Um, well, first of all, not too. So I was like willing to throw a challenge again to get Storm out. Not necessarily because I like had a vendetta against Storm at this point, but
Mhm.
um, just to get a yellow out, because
Mhm.
I did not think that his idol was real, and I was willing. I'm playing on house money at this point, so I'm willing to take the
Mhm.
hits. And Josh and Sharif didn't talk about this, but I swear I was telling them, like, we can, if we lose or if we throw a challenge, like, let's vote for Storm, and if he does play an idol, he's probably like, tell him to vote for me, so I'll take the hit if it's a real
Mhm.
idol, because like, I'm betting my life in the game that whatever that squirrel head thing is he showed me, that's not an idol, and I'm betting he doesn't have anything in his thing either. But probably what would have happened was it probably would have ended up being Megan, because I think um, that's what they were telling me. They were telling me they were leaning towards Megan during our time there, and if they had put their foot down and said vote for Megan, I would have done that. But
Mhm.
if we had ever lost one, I would have been at least pitching the idea of calling Storm's bluff with the idea of, I'll take the hit if I'm wrong.
Because
Um,
I think you went to the least amount of pre-tribal councils of everyone, right?
yeah, it was only possible to vote me out one time uh, before the merge, and that was the Dean of Tribal Council. Every other round before the merge, I was completely safe. Actually, in the entire game, it was technically only possible to vote me out twice, and I got voted out on the second one. So I really only survived one tribal council in the entire game.
Don't frame it like that. You sat through a lot of tribal councils.
Which I think is pretty funny. And it's also really funny because when I was like going through the application process, Parker, Pete, and Amos, they ask you like, so what part, like, do you think you would play more physically, strategically, or socially? Like what would be your strength in the game? And I told them not physically. I would not do well physically, which is hilarious because that's like what my entire game ended up being based on. But
Mhm.
again, that was from my perception of Survivor PCT, where I was playing with a bunch of people who were like super fit and like crazy in shape. And so I thought I was going to be playing with more people like that. Whereas this cast was my PCT cast was more physically based, and this cast was more strategically based.
Hey,
Yeah.
social game was on
My
point.
social game was awful though.
Um, so that ends day 4, day 5. James is the first one voted out of that new tribe. You go to the tribe site and you see James is gone and Bash is there. And what was your reaction? The reactions of everyone around you seeing that tribe come on?
Yeah, I mean, I was upset for James. We also didn't know that he had made the merge, but I mean, James was like literally in my like final three plans.
Mm-hmm.
Like other than that like hour after Megs got voted out when I was just going scorched earth pissed off, like James was pretty much in my final three plans for a lot of stuff, especially before the Megs game.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was final three for me. Um, and so I was really upset about that. And just on a human level, I was really upset for him. Like I would not have voted for him in that capacity. But also just in like a strategic sense, like he really was like probably our best hope of getting someone to flip over
Mm-hmm.
to our side. Um, and so I was disappointed strategically. I was disappointed for my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but overall, I wasn't like shocked, like, oh, how could you do that? Why would you do that? Like I got it. It made
Mm-hmm.
sense. And I was like, that sucks on a human level, and it sucks for me, but I get it. You can't really be too mad when people are just playing optimally.
And then you have that blindfold challenge, right? And what position were you in this?
I was blindfolded, and so I think I was like really underutilized in this challenge because I would run. Like that's what I did. I ran as a blindfold member. Like that's what I think the strat for this challenge is just choose two blindfold people and just send them out. Like don't try to communicate with 4 or 5 different people out in the
Mm-hmm.
field. Just choose like 1 or 2 people who you know are your quickest and just send them back and forth. Like I think Josh should have just been talking to me and sent me out one at a time to grab everything, or like sent me to grab like 3 or 4 of them at least, because I was running. And also, funny story, I ran directly into Lauren during this challenge. We collided pretty hard, which was really fun. I was like running, and then I like collided into someone, and of course it was Lauren, and I thought that was a funny like re-encapsulation of like we both keep like knocking into each other, and like we want to knock the other. It's like that game of Mario Kart or Mario Party where they're on the mountaintop and they're riding the balls and they're trying to knock the other one off the hill. I
Yep.
felt like Lauren and I just kept like knocking into each other, but like neither of us would like
Mm-hmm.
actually hit the other one off until she got me.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so your tribe wins this. And is there anything you want to talk about before we get to the merge?
Oh well, so I want I this is gonna I have a super hot take. I think that the blue camp was not that bad.
Oh, that is a hot take because I have been told that it is like worse than Shrek Swamp.
I
Please
slept,
enlighten me.
without a doubt, I slept better at blue than I did at the yellow camp. Um, and
Because
it's
you had Storm
because
to cuddle with, right?
probably because I had Storm to cuddle with. Yeah, exactly. Um, but the way we had set up the tarps at Yellow Camp, it was not conducive to rain at all. I mean, at least not sleeping in rain. Whereas the way they had set up the tarps at Blue, it was really conducive to a rainy environment. So like at least at night, it was much more comfortable to sleep at Blue in the rain. Uh, and but I will agree with what people are saying. The layout of it and like the swampiness of it did it sucked walking around it. But if you were sitting down, I enjoyed Blue better. But and that's also influenced by me just being in a generally better mindset
Hmm.
while at Blue too. So that was almost certainly a factor. Plus, I have a lot of outdoor experience, and I didn't really care about living in mud too much.
Keenan agrees he did sleep better, and maybe because they had blankets.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with what Keenan's saying here.
So that evening, you get to this. You're reaching the merge. You watch the other tribe appear. You're probably expecting Bash to be gone, but this guy, the only person in the game, by the way, you haven't met yet. And in walks the Kawano 3.0, and Keenan is voted out, and Bash is still there.
Yeah, that was really crazy to me. The when Keenan got voted out, because like that, I'm sure they didn't, they didn't plan this, or like they weren't trying to be dirty about it, but like, man, that is tough. Getting someone to mutiny and then voting them out. Ooh, that is just like cold blooded. And so like just like when you're making guesses, that's what I was thinking. I was like, there's no way that they would do that.
Mm,
Like if they were like if they wanted Keenan out of the game, they would have got him out back during the next vote. Like why
mhm,
on earth would they vote Keenan out? He has literally betrayed. He's literally so loyal to you all that he's mutinied against the other group. Like, how can you say that Bash is more loyal than Keenan?
mhm.
So I don't personally understand the lot. I mean, maybe they thought that Bash was more beatable in the end, or maybe they were
Mhm.
already gauging that. I don't know. And hey, they all did better than I did at the game, so get more power to them. But that's not what I was expecting to happen at all. I was shocked.
So from there, you go to have the most authentic of merged feast. You get
Yeah.
Outback Steakhouse, and you with all the fixins. So how was this meal and like getting to meet Bash the first time and reuniting with all your favorite players from the Kiwani tribe?
So I didn't talk to Bash, but I have a funny story about my first interaction with Bash back at camp. But in terms of the feast was awesome. It was really cool, and it was funny because I ate Applebee's as my meal before
Oh,
I
it's
came.
Applebee's. Oh shit, I picked the wrong restaurant.
What
No,
did you say?
Outback
I didn't even.
Steakhouse.
Oh yeah, no.
Applebee's. Sorry, which is better than Outback
Yeah,
Steakhouse. Let it be remembered.
anyone watching this knows what the merge feast is at this point. So anyone who's 2 hours and 16 minutes here. Um, but yeah, so Applebee's, it was funny because I went to Applebee's before the game started, like before I showed up, because I was like, oh, this will be funny. I'll eat Applebee's before. And then of course I got Applebee's again at the merge. So it was actually really, really cool. And I love spinach artichoke dip. So I was eating spinach artichoke dip. And of course, I think we all, or at least most of us, were expecting there to be some sort of clue there. Um, and it's just so random where you sit. I almost sat there. I sat next to Storm. And I think I sat down first. I almost took that corner spot where he was sitting, but for whatever reason, I sat where I sat instead. And I was paying attention to the chips. There was like a bowl of chips, I think, or that some sort of chips for the spinach artichoke dip. And I was thinking like maybe there's something at the bottom of that bowl. So I was like scouring the spinach artichoke dip for something the whole time. But it was good. I ate a lot. The the starving and stuff didn't really affect me too much out there. So when I had access to food, I utilized it. But when I didn't, it didn't really matter to me too much. But it was authentic and a very unique and cool experience. And I'm glad they did that. I think they should do that again in the future. And I would love to implement that into my games, my
Mhm.
Surviving Bloomington games, because the authentic experience was very fun.
Um, so you go back to the original Kiwanu which will now be your merged tribe, Pete's Angels. I think the one thing I never really asked is how did Pete's Angels get chosen for a name?
You know, I don't really remember. I don't remember whose idea it was.
Mhm,
I didn't care what we called it. And I love Pete. Like I think Pete is the reason I got cast.
mhm.
Um, I don't know, Parker and Amos might be able to say differently, but like I think Pete is the one that I really clicked with during the application process. So um, if anyone went to bat to put me on the cast, my guess is it was maybe Pete. So I loved Pete, and when other people, everyone out there did like Pete impressions, and it was just so funny whenever people would like do their Pete impressions. And so when someone said Pete's Angels, I was like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. So I helped design the flag and stuff too, because I have a artistic background. And I don't know who suggested it. I'm gonna say Angela. Let's give it to Angela.
I think Josh is claiming it.
Okay, Josh gets it. Josh came up with it.
um, so that I think you have later that day. You have your first actual immunity challenge. Individual
Hang on,
immunity.
I want to tell my first Bash interaction
Please, I'm here for
story.
it.
This is so fun. This is like hilarious to me. And Bash, I hope this is okay to say, but so my first Bash interaction, I had heard all these stories about Bash stealing the hot sauce and make like burning all of the firewood over at Blue, so we didn't have access to firewood anymore, and like all of the Bashisms. And so I'm having my first conversation with him, and he asks me what I do like for a living, and I gave my like 60-90 second spiel that we all have, that we tell like about our job, like whenever we're telling people like what we
Mhm.
do. And so I gave my like 60 second spiel to Bash about my job, and directly after that he like didn't really ask me much questions at all. He just looked at me and he goes, okay, I think I fully understand your job now. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation, and he walked off. And I was like, wow, that was a weird interaction. Like, you fully understand my job? That's crazy. I have some questions for you because I don't even fully understand my job. Like, how did you get that so fast? And then he just walked off. The conversation was over. I was like, whoa, okay. So that was my first introduction to Bash, and I was just kind of like, yeah, this guy wants nothing to do with me. These people must have been talking crap about me this whole time.
Um, so what were you envisioning the merge be like kind of walking into, and how did things kind of go down?
um Well, I knew it was close, like, because obviously we were 5-5, counting me as a blue and Bash as a yellow. Um, I thought maybe I could talk to Bash, but after that interaction, it wasn't really looking super hopeful. So at that point, I was thinking, all right, we just need to get as many immunities on our side as possible. And so at this point, I'm hoping that Megs is with us, or Megan is with us. I keep calling her Megs. Um, uh, but I'm hoping that Megan is with us, but I'm like kind of not super hopeful about it, because
Mhm.
one of the conversations I had with Megan at the merge is, I don't remember if this was before or after I had immunity, but I was talking to her and I was like, okay, let's try to build a group of 6. Like, let's get 3 people from blue and 3 people from yellow and make our own thing. Like, we don't need to stick to these tribal lines. So like, you choose 2 people you want in the alliance, I'll choose 2 people I want in the alliance, and then our 6 will have the day. um, and she shut that down so hard. Like, she was not receptive to it in the slightest bit. Like, I was like pitching this idea to her, and she goes, yeah, we're not going to get 6 people to vote together for the rest of the game. And I was like, okay then. So like, and I mean, I think that was just a result of everyone wanted me out first. I was supposed to be voted out 4 days ago. Everyone knew my time was limited, even me, and people didn't really even want to be seen talking to me.
Mhm.
So I wasn't really super hopeful about Megan, but Sharif was really hopeful about Megan. So I kind of just said like, look, Sharif, Megan doesn't really want to talk to me, so you handled the Megan stuff, and then I'll try to win the challenge.
Let's talk about the challenge. So this is a challenge where you're balancing what looks like the shotgun plates that you fire on. I forget the terms, but you're balancing those while like on one foot, and
Mhm.
it ends up being, I think, a heads up you versus Mega at the very end, talking about this challenge.
Yeah, the challenge is fun. I figured I probably stand a pretty good shot at this one, just because I do have pretty decent upper body strength. Storm would give me a run for my money, and I didn't think Sharif would be too difficult because I knew about his shoulder injury. Um, And I thought Bash would do better because he was like a fire dancer or something, like a carnival guy. And I was like, he's got to have good balance, right? Like, and he has about the same upper body strength as me, I was envisioning. But I thought I stood a pretty good chance. I didn't expect Megan to last that long. And the entire time I was just thinking, like, you got to win this because what I wanted to do was I didn't want to give the necklace to Sharif. I wanted to give it to Megan.
Hmm.
That is why I really, really wanted to win that challenge, was so I could offer the necklace to Megan so she would vote with us and not have to worry about a rock draw, is
Hmm.
what I was thinking. Because if she's immune, I'm willing to draw rocks. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll draw rocks. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure the other blues are also willing to draw rocks. The only person who might not be willing to draw rocks is Megan. So if I can get her some sort of immunity, then she might really work with us. Like, that's the only way we can get Megan, is if I can offer her an immunity necklace. Um, so that's why I really, really, really wanted to win
And
that.
is that something you're thinking of, like going into the challenge? Like, I need to win this so I can give it away.
That's what I was thinking at the merge feast. I was like, I need to, because I saw Megan, like, she was almost clearly the like one of the swings. Like, we weren't sure because we never had to prove our loyalties or anything at the second swap with her.
Hmm.
And she had clearly gotten close to Lauren and Angela. Um, and it could make sense for her to work with them. So we needed, all the incentive was for her to go with the other group. So we needed some sort of incentive to give her to come to our group. And the only way we could do that is if we won immunity. So yeah, that was 100% what I was thinking.
And Josh is just like, there's the concern because now Sharif and Lauren both have the extra votes here, and so Sharif could get like 6 votes if in a true 5-5 split. It's hard, but this is probably my favorite part about your game, is just that you're just going to take a swing like this, right? Because you're likely target number one. Like, all the old yellow want you gone. Ryan's your rival, he wants you gone. Lauren's your rival, she wants you gone. You have all these people come after you, just like, nope, I'll get on my immunity. I'll play ball.
Well, yeah. So the logic there is, again, one, I'm playing with house money.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm even in the merge, I have no business being there. Like, if I'm being completely honest with myself,
Hmm.
other than, like, only by the grace of immunities am I there to begin with. Um, and plus, I have implied immunity because they can't plan, since they think I have the necklace, they can't make plans to vote for me.
Hmm.
So I have implied immunity that way. To where, yeah, I mean, it's obviously possible that they could, once they see that it comes off my neck, they all just vote for me. And I was terrified of that. Like, I was really talking to Sharif a lot. Like, man, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I don't want to be Eric Reichenbach or whatever his name is. I do not want to be like that person in real foot history. But and I had that weird conversation with Megan, and I was like, I don't know, like, if Megan's with us, dude. I really don't know if she is. And she she made Sharif feel comfortable enough to go through with the plan. And there was one conversation that I had with her and Sharif at the same time where she did do a pretty good job convincing me of, like, I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And, like, the logic that I was thinking was like, look, if it's not now, like, then it's just the next vote. Like, I
Hmm.
can't rely on this thing for the next 7 votes. Like, I'm so far from the finals. Like, if it doesn't happen, like, if I give it up and they all vote for me, then that just would have happened the next round anyway. So, like, I might as well take this swing, because if it works, then I'm in the end game now. Like, I'm officially in the end game pretty much, if it works. And then if it doesn't work, you know, probably I'm not getting voted out because they haven't been able to plan for that. And really, worst case scenario, I get voted out and I would have gotten voted out anyway. So it all just made sense to me to make the swing.
So, going to the tribal council, what percent chance do you think of your alliance coming out ahead?
Ooh, that's a good question. I probably, if you had asked me, like, if they had asked me in the moment, I probably would have said, like, 45% chance it's going to work in our favor and 55% chance Megan's going to flip. But,
Hmm.
like, there's still a pretty good chance that she won't flip. Um, and then I think it was Josh's idea to where we landed on giving Sharif the necklace, which, that made sense too. Like if they felt like they had Megan and she
Hmm.
was willing to go to Rocks, then it was technically the better move to give it to Sharif so they couldn't vote for him. But I don't remember if I ever even mentioned that to Megan. I wonder what she would have done if I had offered to give her the necklace, and if
Hmm.
I had. I did also one thing I did. I was really bad in this game. I never offered Final Three deals to anyone. Like I never voiced it. I had it in my head, but I never voiced it to people, and that's a huge, huge, huge blunder mistake. Um, I think I want to know how Megan would have maybe done that differently if I offered to give her the necklace and I offered her a final three spot with myself and like Barb.
Hmm.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like if we can get this five through, then my final three is me, Barb, and Megan, and
Hmm.
then we'll see what happens.
Hmm.
Probably I lose probably in that scenario. But I don't know if I win in any scenario in the finals with this group, if I'm being completely honest. So
Okay, so when the vote ends up being so actually let's talk about the theatrics. So like there's this whole plan, you're gonna give your immunity necklace away to Sharif, and then like Josh is gonna hand you what you know is it well, do you know it's a fake idol, or you just know? Okay, so it's the legit fake idol, so it's gonna hand off to you. And despite Megan having kind of leaked this already to the other side, you get a reaction, right? You get two idols played from the opposition.
oh yeah, it was almost beautiful. It was so close to being just a symphony of like flushing two idols and getting Bash out, getting the numbers. Oh, it was so close. And I think I even have a confessional where I say like, "Oh, we're so close. It could be this perfect. Like the only person who could screw it up is Megan."
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, from her, I understand what she did. Like it was better for her to do that for my game than it was probably for hers. But I mean, then again, I did want to go to the end with her, but
Hmm.
so I don't know. But yeah, the theatrics of it all was pretty cool. I was like rehearsing what I was gonna say in my head. I knew because Amos, before we go to vote, he always asks if someone like has anything that else they they want to say, and I knew that's when I was going to say it. And I was like, I got to take a big swing here to get big results. And I took it off and gave it to Sharif. And then Josh did his thing. And I was like, yes, let's go, y'all. Like, we're doing it. This is like like, if this works, it's got to, I don't know the past 9 seasons of Reelfoot, but it's got to be some sort of history if we can pull this shit off. Um, but 'twasn't meant to be.
So Josh goes home 6-4, and you go to your next immunity challenge. At this point, you're probably feeling okay. Like, is it do or die? You to win this or I'm out. Is that what you're feeling like after the tribal council?
Yeah, I know I'm not the most beloved person in this group of people. And I was also in kind of like a self-defeating mindset to a certain extent at this point because it had been 6 days of
Hmm.
me just feeling like complete crap and ostracized and like people don't like me and I don't even fully understand why people don't like me. Um, so and then Barb isn't really talking to me. So Josh gave the necklace thing to Megan, and so I'm trying to talk to Sharif and Barb about voting for Megan. Like that's the only way we can get them not to split the vote because they think the idol that I have is real. Um, and Barb pretty much just says like, no, I'm not voting for Megan. She didn't want to vote for a woman at that point. Um, and so I was just like, okay, there's nothing. I mean, if Barb is not willing to play ball, then there's nothing that we can do. And then Sharif did find or at the challenge he saw the advantage, the safety without power. It
Hmm.
was like hidden on the like the thing that holds the necklace. Like whenever I gave the necklace back, or whenever someone gave the necklace back, Amos like put it on this stick, and that's where the stick that the
Mhm.
necklace was sitting on was where the advantage was. And Sharif saw it, and I was standing next to Sharif. He kind of nudged me and was like, "Look, there's a thing right there." And we thought it was an idol, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" And then I don't know if he heard me say this, but like I was setting up a pick for him, like a basketball. I wanted to like because I thought other people maybe saw it
Mhm.
first. And of course, I did it to Laura, and I like walked directly in front of Lauren to like set a pick so she couldn't get to it. And then
Oh no. Casey, you there? is, is it frozen just for me or for everyone else as well? Well, if anyone in the chat can help confirm whether it's a me issue or a KC issue, that would be that would be great. Else I can fill the silence with something, I suppose. I don't know. Survivor 43 premiere soon. Okay, cool. Thank you. What do I want to ramble about? Who wants to hear about? Oh, yay! Okay, he's back. Good. I don't need to talk about my dissertation to fill air. That you saved everyone.
sorry about that. It might happen again. My internet here is weird. I have to like go back and forth between two.
We've
But
gone 2.5 hours for pretty solid though.
yeah. Okay. So what happened? When did I lose you?
You were setting up a pick
Yes, I
on.
set up a pick, and actually, what ended up happening was I was able to get to it first, and I grabbed it, and I was like, "Oh man, I should take this. I should totally just take this for myself." But my social worker brain kind of took over, and it was Sharif's. Like he saw it, he found like there's no way in hell I ever would have seen that thing without him pointing it out, and I was just kind of like I had that moment where like that Lord of the
That'd be
Rings Gollum
greedy.
moment where I had the precious, it was in my hand, and I was like, I could keep this for myself. Like I should keep this for myself, but it's better in Frodo's hands. Here you go. So I handed it off to Sharif. And that's just kind of like a in the moment sportsmanship thing that I should probably ignore in a game like Survivor, but I just can't. I couldn't do it, especially not to Sharif because he's such a good dude. And like I said, there was an emotional component in my mind with the Blues to where I really did feel like I owed them,
Mhm.
and there's just no way I could sit there and kind of steal an advantage from Sharif in that way.
So this next challenge is the balancing challenge. We have a surprisingly heavy tennis racket size esque paddle, and you're balancing a ball on top of it. How is that for you? And this
Yeah,
is
that
not a
thing
balance challenge. This is really an endurance challenge in
Yeah,
disguise.
that thing sucked. When I saw the challenge, I was actually excited because I have a version of this challenge that I'm like really good at, but you put more balls on as time
Mhm.
goes. So you go up to like balancing 3 balls at a time. So if the challenge had been adding balls, then
Mhm.
I would have done really, really well because I know how to like make them move like independent of each other. So that's what I was hoping for. But when I realized that it was only going to be 1 ball indefinitely, that's when I was like, dang, this is a strength challenge, not a balance challenge. And
Mhm.
I'm going against the two biggest guys here. Like, I don't know if I can beat them. And I lasted a good amount of time, and I truly lasted like as long as my body physically would let me
Mhm.
go. And then like when I dropped, it's because my body
Mhm.
could not do it anymore. So I don't think there was any winning that for me, and I think it was good game design for them to have 1 man and 1 woman win
Mhm.
that challenge. Otherwise, it would have been completely lopsided for Sharif or Storm to just
Mhm.
walk away with that thing.
So talk me through after the challenge leading up to tribal council. What are you doing? What are you saying? What are you hearing?
Is
Did
this
you hear
me
me?
or
I think it glitched briefly. All right. My question is: after the challenge, talk to me about the strategy leading up to tribal council.
okay? So this is where all the Storm stuff happened. The
Mhm.
fake idol. This is the fake idol debacle. So I've pretty much just resigned myself at this point because Barb is not willing to play ball. Sharif is leaving tribal council like with his safety without power. And so I'm just like, there's nothing I can do. And plus, Sharif and Barb are telling all of them that the idol I have is fake. So like they all, from my perspective, pretty much know. And even if they thought it was real, they have the votes to split it 3-3.
Yeah.
They would put, like, assuming Sharif leaves tribal council, they put 3 votes on me and they put 3 votes on Barb. When I don't play my idol because it's fake, on the revote, they all just vote for me. So I've pretty much just like kind of resigned myself. You know, I'm still having conversations with people and talking to them, but for the most part, I'm feeling like my number's been coming up for the past 4 days. I think this is probably it. It's probably finally here. And then I'm like walking down camp and I look over at Storm and he like kneels down into like the tall grass, picks something and like puts it in his pocket. And I'm like, and I like walk over and I was like, "Did you just find something? That's crazy, dude. Like, that's awesome." And like at this point, I'm just kind of like joking around with Storm because I'm on my way out. I like Storm. He's a funny guy. You know, our games didn't align. So, but there's no like reason for us to really have bad blood. So like we're kind of talking through the options and like I I told him, I was like, it is better for you to like work with me. Like me leaving this game is like not good for you because like if you're choosing to go with like Lauren and Angela and like Megan and them, like they beat you in the end, whereas you beat me in the end. Like you should, like, theoretically you and Ryan need to be wanting to work with me. Like I don't understand why you're not working with me, because you can both beat me. I'm willing to go to the end with you. Um, and right now, Megan is taking your all's place in the alliance. Like that's what happened that last tribal council. She solidified herself with Lauren and Angela, and now she just got one of your all spots. I don't know which one she got, but she got one of your all spots. So I was like kind of trying to pitch that, but I didn't feel like he was really super gonna do it just because of the history of the game, and I was like in a pretty self-defeated mindset at this point. But so he does start engaging me in that conversation. This is right after he found an idol, and he's like trying to get information out of me. And at a certain, I just at a certain point, like in my mind, what I'm thinking is like the only way I get out of this thing is if Storm's willing to play ball. Like that's my only way out because Barb is voting for me and Sharif's leaving tribal council, and they have the ability to just completely split the vote. So I said to him, I was like, look, I'm about to completely tank my game here. Like, I'm going to tell you everything, telling you everything. If you want to use it to get me out, whatever, I'm going anyway. But this is like my last lifeline here. So I'm just going to tell you everything. So I told Storm that my idol was fake. And then I told him about that Sharif was leaving tribal council because he was like trying to figure out a way for like me, Sharif, and Barb to vote correctly, or like I thought he was. He was making me believe he was trying to think of a way for us to get out. And I was like, Sharif's not going to be there. We can't use Sharif as a vote. Like, so I told him that. And I told him like basically everything. And then he pitched the idea of what if I give you the idol I just found? And then I was like, what? You give me an idol? That's crazy, dude. Why on earth would you do that? That like why? And then I don't remember exactly what we talked about, but we must have gone through the like I think I was good for his game to stay in. So we probably talked through that, like why it would be good. And obviously I'm latching on to that now. I'm telling him whatever he wants to hear, just so he'll give me that idol. And then he says something like, I need something to show the group. I need something to show the other yellows. So what he was pitching to me was he wants to be able to convince all of his alliance to vote for me. Then I play the idol that he just found, so he doesn't get in trouble for giving me like they don't know. Like he still wants to vote for me. But he gave me a hidden immunity idol that would allow me to save myself. So that way, moving forward in his game, I'm still public enemy number 1, and we get out like Megan or something, because I think he wanted Megan out.
Yeah.
So like playing the idol would be a way for him to get his agenda across without anyone knowing that he's getting his agenda across, because I'm playing an idol that no one knows he gave me. That's what I'm operating. That's like the game plan that I'm operating inside of. And this makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, if he wants me in the game, like I guess it makes sense for him to give me the idol. And yeah, I'll take it. Like 100% I'll take it. And then he said, can I think about it? Give me a little bit to think about it before we commit to this. And so he wanted to trade, so I would give him the fake idol so he could show them that to the rest of the group and be like, yeah, he doesn't have anything. So in my mind, I think he's using my fake idol to show them that I don't have anything. That way they'll vote for me, and then I play the real idol that he just handed me. And then he gets away scot-free. But he says, can I think about it? Let me think
Mhm.
about it a little bit. And then I said, like, look, dude, I get it. Like, we have not been like integral parts of each other's games. I don't expect you to tank your game for me. Like, if you really think that this is best for your game to give me a hidden immunity idol, then do it. I'll play it. I will play that shit, and you and I are locked into the final to the end. Like, I'm good. I am 100% on board, but I'm not gonna, like, if you don't think it's best for your game, just tell me that you don't think it's best for your game, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to hold it against you, because, like, you know, you don't owe me anything. What do you owe me? Like, why would you? If you don't think it's best, then I don't expect you to do it. So he's like, we had that moment of like, take some time to think about it. You're allowed to say no. Like, you can say no. You have that option. And so he walked off, took some time to think about it, and now at this point, I'm thinking like, all right, that's it. And I'm talking to Sharif. Sharif is trying to decide if he should play his safety without power or not. Sharif says he trusts Megan. He doesn't trust Storm. I'm telling Sharif, I don't trust Megan. I have to trust Storm. This is the only thing that works. Like, if he doesn't give me what, I don't remember if I told Sharif all of the details, but like, I was telling Sharif, like, look, dude, just get out of there and let me handle my business. Like, you save yourself.
Mhm.
I'm working on my own thing over here. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, then it's not the end. Whatever. I'm lucky to have made it this far.
Mhm.
Um, and then Storm. So then we're like walking to tribal council, and we're kind of waiting on some people or something. And Storm looks at me and is like, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I was like, oh my God, he's doing it. This is crazy. He's actually giving me an immunity idol. We're about to pull off the biggest coup imaginable. And it's going to be me and Storm, like it always should have been from the beginning. And I'm like, just getting like super hyped. Like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. I'm finally getting on the same page with Storm. And then he like, I think he even said like, I'm giving you the other one or something like that. Like, he didn't say I'm giving you the one that I just found. He said I'm giving you the other one. And that's when I was like, wait, what? Like, but it was like kind of in front of people. So we like did the trade-off in secret. And I was like feeling it in my pocket and kind of felt like a skull's head. And I was like, oh crap. If this is that stupid squirrel's head, I'm about to be so mad. And then there was like, we were like waiting to go in, and there's like this garage where they kept all the challenges. And I said I was going to the bathroom or something. And I walked around the other side so no one could see. And then I pulled it out to look at it. And Frank and Mike, our two tribe handlers, were standing there, and they saw me. I looked at it and I just go, like, I was so pissed. I was like, God damn, he gave me the squirrel head. Like, this is not an idol. I know it's not an idol.
Mhm.
And so at that point, I was like, I don't know why, like, why did he just do that? Like, there's no reason in my mind for him to
Mhm.
hand me this fake idol. Like, they already had me. And he had like, I gave him the option. I was like, take the time to think about it, decide if you want to do it. He took the time to think about it, and he decided that he wanted to do this other thing. And I was just like in such a negative headspace. I was in like just not in a good space
Mhm.
at all. And then I was sitting there just like completely defeated. Like, if you like look at me, my in the video, my shoulders are slouched. I kind of have my legs like spread out in front of me. My body language is just like super negative during that tribal council. And then, I'm kind of trying to justify it in my head, like convince myself, like, maybe it's real. Maybe he really did find the blue idol. And because it kind of looks like it's a skull head, like kind of like the challenge immunity necklace. I don't know. Maybe I'm like the luckiest person alive and it is actually real, but I pretty much knew. And then and then, tried playing it. It's a fake idol. And I looked over at Storm and Ryan, and they're both laughing. They are actively laughing. And I think Ryan even pointed at me. I think he said, like, yeah, I made that or something like that. And I was just like, why? Like, this feels just so like mean and unnecessary. And I don't think, for the record, I don't think either of them are
Hmm.
mean anymore. I'm very much over this. I very much enjoy both of them, and I don't think that was fully their intention. Um, I don't know if they'll admit this, but I think if they're being really honest, there was a part of them that thought it was funny that it's happening to Casey. Like specifically, it's Casey that it's happening to, and that is pretty funny. Um, I think to a large extent they thought they were laughing with me, but the problem was I was not laughing. I was not laughing at all. I did not think it was funny. Um, this was to a large extent my dream. That's what a lot of us go out there to do.
Hmm.
Like this is our dream. This is um, it's not just a game. I don't like it whenever people use the phrase "it's just a game" to try and justify things that they do inside the game, because I don't think it's just a game. Monopoly is just a game. Settlers of Catan is just a game. Um, Survivor and Surviving Reelfoot is not just a game. This is something we had all been dreaming and daydreaming about for
Hmm.
months, if not years. Um, and saying that this is just a game is like a rich person, like people like Ryan and Storm and Lauren and the people who did really good. It's like a rich person telling a poor person, money's not everything. Money's not that important. Well, yeah, it's not important to you because you're rich. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's just a game to you because you've had an extremely positive experience out here. You've had everything go well for you. Like, of course, it's just a game to you. But to people like me and to people like Drew and Julia and probably Dina, and they haven't said these things to me. I'm making assumptions here, but to people like us, it's a bunch of unmarked check boxes that we all thought we were going to get to check off. And I made it far in the game, but I had a lot of really negative experience. Like I shouldn't have made it that far.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of really negative mindset experiences because of it. So it was not just a game to me.
Hmm.
It felt like a bunch of people going out of their way to say bad things about me when I didn't think I even really did anything. I had heard all of these things that apparently Ryan was trash talking me for the entire game. And like, Lauren was trash talking me and maybe Storm was trash talking. Like I didn't, and since then I've listened to these interviews and I've gotten a better understanding of their headspace. And I actually don't think they were trash talking that hard. It was pretty well confined with inside the game. But in the moment, what I was experiencing was these people, it felt like they were being really mean, like
Hmm.
unnecessarily like mean to me and going out of their way to do something, and that was a joke at my expense that I didn't think needed to be at my expense, because they could have just split the vote 3-3 and then that's it. Like Casey goes home. That's like that. That's what it is. That's what it could have been. And I think what it should have been. And when they didn't do that, it felt like they were finding a way to like put Casey in his place. Here's this guy that was supposed to be gone 4 days ago. We haven't liked him for the past 6 days, and now we really get to put him in his place.
Hmm.
That's what it felt like to me in the moment. Again, I do not believe that anymore. I absolutely do not believe that anymore. But in the moment, that's what I was experiencing. That's the mindset that I was in. Um, Kind of like in CBS Survivor on David versus Goliath, whenever Angela made the fake idol to get out Dr. Allison.
Hmm.
Uh, it was just kind of like, this is funny. I'm having a good time. Like, this is all just a game to me. So I'm gonna, uh, you know, offer this poor person $100 bill and watch them get all excited about it, and then see their reaction when they realize it's actually just a fake $100 bill and they can't actually use it for
Hmm.
anything. It was like, why? Like, why did you have to do that?
Hmm.
And so that is why I was so upset by all of that. Like, if you're gonna vote me out in that capacity, just leave me alone. Do what Angela did. Don't even talk to me before. Just like, the writing's on the wall. I see it. Let me just take my torch and leave.
Hmm.
So,
Um, Talk to me about your experience in Ponderosa.
um, Ponderosa was actually really awesome. I had a really great experience at Ponderosa. Chips and salsa fixed the mood right up. Yeah, it did. Oh yeah, puzzle night was fun with Josh. I cried. I did cry at Ponderosa. I was specifically, so I have, without getting too deep into it, I do have a thing in my past about people laughing at me specifically, and specifically people pointing at me and laughing. So when I had that experience again with Ryan and Storm, I think Storm was just smiling. I don't think he was laughing, but it really felt like Ryan was laughing at me and pointing at me. So that was a really difficult thing for me to get over. And I was sitting there. I sat with James, Josh, and Keenan, and we spent a good 20 minutes talking through like my feelings and like why I was so upset and like why that hurt so much. And I cried. I got really emotional about it.
Mhm.
So the beginning of Ponderosa was interesting in that way because I was able to bond with these other guys. And then I got to reconnect with James, which was awesome. And I think Keenan and I ended up getting pretty close at Ponderosa. Keenan wants me to mention yep, there it is. There's a gorilla song called like 19 to 2000 or something, and him and I would hum that together a lot. And we bonded over the show Trailer Park Boys, which is a Canadian mockumentary show that I really enjoy, and he liked it a lot, so we talked about that. And then Keenan, I think Keenan can be a lot for some personalities, but I loved hanging out with him at Ponderosa. And at one point we went to Walmart and Keenan got a bunch of Mountain Dew. And so he was like really hopped up on caffeine one night. And it was just probably one of my favorite times of the entire experience, just watching Keenan bounce off the walls. Like that was when production we were like confined to this like really tiny room upstairs. It was pretty hot. And I think Keenan was bouncing off the walls so hard that production literally had to let all of us out and like walk around and like talk to the rest of production and stuff. And like it was so funny hanging out with Keenan. I just loved him so much. And him and we got a chance to bond. The way Keenan and I bonded at Ponderosa is what I thought our bond inside the game was before Megs. And so it was fun to finally get on the same page in terms of that with him.
Mm-hmm. So as a juror, what do you look for in a winner?
I had my eyes on Angela and Lauren the entire time. I think maybe I don't know what I said in my exit interview, but I feel like I remember we got one phone call and I called my girlfriend and I told her that I was rooting for Lauren and Angela. And then after them, I was rooting for Megan. So I didn't feel like I could vote for Ryan or Storm because I was still really upset. I mean, I genuinely was upset. I felt like at the time that they were just mean for no reason. Again, don't think that anymore. They're both absolutely incredible. I understand Storm's perspective more now, but in the time it was a really uphill battle if they were ever going to get my vote. So I was looking for someone who was maneuvering socially really well. I didn't really care about challenge wins, socially and strategically. And for me, that was Angela and Lauren. If Lauren's in the finals, I vote for her every day of the week. There's no question about it. And I was talking her up big time on the jury. Like anytime like it came up, I was telling other people what a good game she was playing and trying to get other people to vote for her. And I think I actually accidentally convinced Keenan not to vote for Angela. I did not even mean to do this, but like I was just like talking to Keenan casually, and I told him about like when he like at the merge or something, Angela was just like casually talking about how like Keenan was trying to save himself by saying he came all the way from Canada or something, and she said she didn't think that was like a valid argument or something like that, something along those lines. And I was just like kind of passively talking about it, and Keenan really fixated on that, and he did not like it, and he was not happy with Angela for a long time. And so I felt like I spent actually a lot of time talking to Keenan about like, dude, like it was not that important. Like, please don't please don't not vote for Angela just because of this one thing that I like accidentally said in passing. Like, I do not want, like, Angela's playing an incredible game. If she loses because of something I accidentally said in passing, I'm going to be so like upset with myself. So after that, I spent a good amount of time trying to talk up Angela's game and how well she was hiding under the radar, because she, not that she was hiding under the radar, but like that she was ingratiating herself with like
Mhm.
multiple alliances. Because it really was like in like all of the different alternate universes, Angela is in the top 5.
Mhm.
Like, and I think she's the only one who like can maybe say that, besides maybe Bash, I'm not sure. But like Angela was like involved in everyone's plans constantly to the end, myself included. Like, there is a very real world where if Lauren goes at that first tribal council, then I'm working with Angela into the end game and potentially even sitting with her in the finals, and she beats me.
Mhm.
So Angela, that's what I was impressed with. And then at the final tribal council, when at one point she said something like that she had set up a final 6 or 7 to where she knew she was going to be in the finals pretty much no matter what happens. And I was just like, dang, that is crazy good. She is so good. Like, I cannot not vote for her.
So going to the final travel, were you open to Bash or Storm at that point?
I was pretty set on Angela.
Mhm.
I will say that Storm had an incredible final tribal council. Like, he actually did almost sway me. If I didn't feel so insanely burned by him, I would have considered more voting for him, because his final tribal, I thought he had the best final tribal performance out of the 3.
Mhm.
Um, if he like if it had been a final 2, like with him and Bash, I would have voted for Storm for
Mhm.
sure. Um, like I just had such like Angela played such a good game, and I
Mhm.
had that other option there, um, of a person who genuinely deserved it and played an incredible game, that like it kind of didn't matter how good of a final speech he
Mhm.
gave, that um, Angela just deserved it for so many reasons, even beyond the fact that I felt really hurt by Storm.
So when you go up the votes, you discover that you don't have 1 vote, you get 2 votes.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Well, so did they say anything, or just said, "Hey, like you get a second one, vote again"? What was that like?
Yeah, so that was funny because so I went up to the voting booth, and like as I was walking up, Pete was like messing with something, and so like I kind of like took my time walking up and I didn't know what was going on, and then they were like, read that note, and I was like, what is this? And I like read it, but I didn't, it was really long. It was a really long note, and I was like, I can't read all of this. This is going to take too long. So like I just kind of skimmed it, and I got the gist that I was allowed to vote twice. Um, and I was like, oh dang, this is cool. And then I actually did I knew at least one of my votes was going to Angela. There was no way I could not vote for Angela. Um, but I did consider giving my second vote to Storm,
Mm.
because of how good his final tribal was. And at that point, I gave my little speech or whatever, which I'll talk about it in a second, I guess.
Mhm.
But I gave my little speech, so that was off my chest, and I actually felt bad after the speech. So I almost gave the second vote to Storm, because I think he did deserve more than 2 votes
Mhm.
technically. But then that would have just it would have made me basically not a jury member, because like you have to I felt like you had to put both votes on one person for your like to be an influential jury member. And if I knew Bash wasn't getting any votes, so if I gave one to Angela and one to Storm, then it would essentially be like me not being a jury member at all and not
Mhm.
getting a vote. So I couldn't do that, and I just had to put both of them on Angela. Oh, and it was funny because I said, I wish I could vote for you a million times, but I'll settle for 2, which I thought was pretty clever.
Did you have an idea of who gave you that? Like,
No, I could not figure it out. I thought Storm gave it to me, which was like, I was like, wait, did Storm not realize like how upset I was? Like, how much did I just like blindside him with that speech? I thought he knew. I
mhm.
thought he was like ready for me to like rip him a new one. But I guess I don't think he realized how upset I was. And again, I think he thought that he was laughing with me.
Mhm.
Um, and again, the problem was I wasn't laughing. I didn't think it was funny. And so when you do something like that and when you're making jokes that you think are funny, you kind of have to evaluate the other person and see like, okay, are they in a headspace to think this to also think this is funny? Because if they're not laughing with me, then that means I'm laughing at
Mhm.
them. And I don't think he took the time to like consider that. I think he just thought we're in Survivor and all is fair in love and war, and if you don't think this is funny, then you're just bitter.
Mhm.
Um, whereas, yeah.
So I guess two things. First, when Ryan gets voted out the final seven and he enters the jury house, did you discuss like did you have a moment where you talked to him about this as well?
No, I never had a conversation with Ryan because once he got voted out, it was kind of like, you felt it too. There's no reason for me to,
Hmm.
pile on here.
Hmm.
And he was really nice. I was nervous. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't nervous about him coming because I had been hearing that he was trash talking me the entire time, and I didn't think I was. I still didn't understand why like we had a rivalry or
Hmm.
anything like that. Because,
Hmm.
like I said, during that Meg's vote, I spent the entire day getting the vote off of Ryan.
Hmm.
That entire round, getting it off of him from my perspective. So I didn't understand why he was so upset with me. Now I know it's because I said the idol thing, which makes sense. But and voted Dina out. But yeah, he at one point he shook my hand and said, hey, thanks for being my rival. And that's just the kind of guy Ryan is. And I'm seeing now, like in the game, I didn't really see what all the Ryan hype was because we just didn't really interact too much. But now I see why people loved him so much. And I very, very much agree that Ryan, he's a solid dude. When he shook my hand, I mean, that erased any negative feelings I had about him.
Hmm.
And then we slept next to each other. He put his little sleeping bag next to my cot, and we were sleeping buddies for like at least a night or two. So that was funny. I respected him for that as well. That he kind of really did leave it all inside of the game, and I think that's cool. Yeah.
Would you like to talk any more about your tribal council speech?
Yeah. So I don't regret anything that I said. I stand by everything that I said. Um, I do regret the venue that I said it at. I should have had that conversation with Storm in private, um, alone after the game was finished. I should have just not talked to him. And my speech should have just been going up and talking about how good of a game Angela played and how proud of her I was. And I should have just left it at that. And I have apologized to Storm, and I do apologize again that I chose to do it at tribal council in front of everyone. Um, uh, um, yeah, and I feel bad about that. I regret it. I'm embarrassed by it. And um, but again, I was just that mindset that I was in. I was in such a negative headspace that like I I felt like I needed him to know like what he did, and that like what he did was like it's not cool. Like don't like because if you ever play one of these things again, I need you to know that this isn't gonna fly. Like don't do this to someone else, because if you get like if you think you got away with it with me, you might do it to someone else. And don't do that because it's not cool. It's not. I don't think it's within the game, as the person on the receiving end of it. And if you were to do it to someone else again in the future, um, I don't think they would think it is as well. So I
Hmm.
just really felt like, I felt like I was standing up for myself. um, I felt like to a certain extent, um, I'm carefully saying this, um, because I don't want to paint the wrong picture about Storm.
Hmm.
Um, I do not think he is a bully at all, but in the moment, I did feel like I was being bullied a little bit. And so when I gave that speech, I felt like I was standing up for myself, and I was standing up for any future people that potentially could happen to.
Hmm.
And that's the big thing, like with my job and my work. That's how I advocate for, people who get stuck in like the prison system. That's how I advocate for people who have like really heavy mental health issues, who don't know how to advocate for themselves. these are that's the type of thing that if I were talking to my client, I would encourage them to stand up for themselves. So I felt like I needed to do that for myself and for anyone else that it could potentially have. And now I regret the way that it made Storm feel, because I don't think he's a bully. I think he's an incredible, incredible person and an incredible Survivor player. But things just happened, and I felt like I needed to do that.
Mhm.
If I could go back, I would probably do it in private, but it is what it is at this point, and I said what I said.
I'd like to talk a little about the healing process post game. It sounds like you came in the game 70%, and in the game you found yourself very much on the outs, ostracized. I mean, I know from personal experience you can feel very intense isolation in these games when people simply just don't talk and interact with you because you're not in their alliance. Talk me through these past two couple months and how you've come to terms with the game and reconciled the game.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me. We had like a a party afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
which was fine, but I really just wanted to go home. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go home and see my girlfriend. I felt um, when I left the game, so I entered the game at about 70%, I'd say 70% Casey. I think I left the game at about 35% Casey. And I really just wanted to go home and recharge. And then like a week or so after the game, I was at like 20% Casey. Like it just kept going down. We all question ourselves. I wasn't really questioning any of my moves, but I was just really, really scared that these people all hated me. I was really scared that they didn't like me, and that I had started off doing things that I didn't know why they didn't like me to begin with. And then when I did the speech, I was scared that I gave them all a reason to not like me with the storm speech, which is why I was scared and embarrassed by like after I gave the speech. Um, and so I couldn't even read the group chat for like a long time, for like weeks afterwards. We had this big group chat going on, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even open it. I couldn't read it. I couldn't see it. Like the way they were interacting with each other just it didn't feel like I was welcome. And I'm sure this was all in my own head. They were not doing no one was doing anything to
Mm-hmm.
make me feel this way. Quite the opposite. They were all reaching out to me one-on-one in messages. And I feel like they were trying to include me, but like just my brain has told me that I'm not allowed to fit in with this group, and I really I really succumbed to that
Nice.
for yeah, I succumbed to that for weeks, for a long time. And the only person I really felt like I could talk to, surprisingly enough, was Julie.
Mm-hmm.
This person that I never met even inside the game. So her and Julie and I have had some really, really amazing conversations over Facebook since the game has been over. And I have so much respect for her, and I wish so badly we could have met inside the game, because she is my type of people, like one to a T. If her and I ever met in real life, if we lived in the same city, we would be very good friends for the rest of our lives, and I fully, fully believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't until I started these interviews. These interviews actually are what really created the healing process for me.
I'm
So
glad.
I want to extend that very genuine thank you to you, because you doing these things has allowed me to feel like a part of the Reelfoot family that I am, and that I think I deserve to feel like, if that makes sense. Because again, I had been hearing all these things about people talking crap about me
Mm-hmm.
inside the game. But then when these interviews came out, I kind of got a more clear understanding of like what they were actually saying, what they were
Mm-hmm.
actually thinking, and like the comments they were actually making.
Mm-hmm.
And it just cleared so much up for me of like, okay, they don't hate me. Like Casey, they don't hate you. Like it's not you. It's not like they're not all, there's not like a separate group chat going on where they're like making fun of Casey or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. They like you. It was just like the circumstances of the game, and honestly the way you interacted with them inside the game, that created this dynamic. So it's okay to be a part of this group and to be engaging with them, and to love them, you know? And so I think now I'm still not 100% Casey, but I'm
Hmm.
probably like 85% Casey. And I
Hmm.
feel much, much, much more like a part of the Reelfoot family now than I did, even a couple weeks after the game.
I'm just so glad about that because I've spoken to before. Like for these, I think I want to have these interviews as an opportunity for the players to have a catharsis, but I didn't even think about players watching other players and like being able to come to terms with that. So I'm just really, really glad that these have been helpful in that journey for you.
It's incredibly valuable, the service that you're offering. And like whenever whenever I so I'm editing. So I just had my season 5 of Surviving
Hmm.
Bloomington, and I'm editing the footage now. And my goal is to start releasing episodes in the winter. And
Hmm.
I am hoping that you will be willing to do these types of interviews with some of my contestants too, because it's pretty, in my opinion, I think it's invaluable, especially from like a social worker
Hmm.
perspective, who really cares about people's mental health and understands how extreme the game can make people feel.
Hmm.
Um, and now, because of my Reelfoot experience, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. And PCT, I know what it's like to think it's just a game, but I
Hmm.
do it because I was incredibly successful. And now I know what it feels like to recognize like this isn't just a game. Like
Hmm.
this is real life. These are very intense emotions that we're all experiencing out there. And
Hmm.
uh, yeah. So I am hopeful that my contestants can get that same level of catharsis from these types of interactions that you offer.
I would love to. I would love the opportunity to do that when episodes come out this winter. That would be really fun.
Great, awesome, love it.
Um, and so I know, like you kind of mentioned, like the healing process is ongoing. I know. So I probably heard this. My first game, I got to the final two and lost, and I got shut down. For me, I felt like I was living my Survivor dream and nightmare simultaneously in that experience, and like it took me a good couple months to really come to terms with what on earth I just experienced and lived through. And
Mhm.
I know like these answers will probably change as time progresses and you get past and like you continue the healing process. But looking back at your real food experience right now, like what do you feel like your takeaway is from it?
Um, so probably listen to yourself and listen
Hmm.
to your body. That's advice that I give my clients a lot,
Hmm.
when I'm working with them. Listen to yourself and listen to your body. If you don't know if you're ready for an experience, you don't necessarily need to force yourself to do it, because
Hmm.
to be completely honest, I don't think I was ready for this experience. Like I said, I went in at 70% because 30% of me was still out in California on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Hmm.
Um, people like Storm and Lauren and Ryan and Angela. I mean, I would encourage them, take time. Like if you're not at 100%, don't play another one of these things,
Hmm.
because the chances of it going as well for you a second time are pretty slim. And it's difficult if your heart is still somewhere else. And really listen to yourself. And yeah, I mean that's the advice I would give, because I do, you always hear people say follow your gut, follow your
Hmm.
heart, trust your gut. To a large extent, I didn't really understand what people were talking about before this experience. That to me, that was just like a phrase that
Hmm.
people said in anime and on
It's
Game of Thrones
a
and stuff. I was like,
platitude.
yeah, that's not something that like people can really follow. But like
Hmm.
this really made me realize, like, okay, our gut, like we know things, like we can know things, we can feel things. um and to follow that is, it's possible. And at least for me, if I had done that, I feel like I would have, probably been more successful, or at least had less negative feelings
Hmm.
about my experience in the moment.
Hmm. So, looking back at your surviving real food experience, are there things, and again, like, don't no need to give away all your secrets here, but are there things and takeaways you think you're going to incorporate into future seasons of Survivor Bloomington?
Definitely the mutiny advantage. That is here to stay, 1000%. I think that's so cool. Um, Again, I think who like Parker or Amos or Pete, whichever one of them came up with that idea, they need to write into CBS and tell them about that. Is
Mhm.
it it's not on like Australian Survivor or anything, is it? I've never seen the Australian seasons.
Oh gosh, I've seen. I should know this. I've seen the past. I think. Quick
Well,
to Google.
I know it's not on CBS Survivor,
Yeah.
so they should write it. They should write into CBS Survivor and tell them about that because I think that advantage is absolutely genius and it should be as commonplace as hidden immunity idols. Like,
Mhm,
honestly, I think I would rather have the mutiny advantage in my possession than a hidden immunity idol. And
mhm.
I'm not just saying that. I think it's a more valuable pre-merge advantage. And I think people should be looking for that in all seasons, including future surviving Bloomington seasons.
Well, as someone who's the two times I've gone up pre-merge have all been after the swap, I would also like a mutiny advantage in my favor. Um,
And it's so cool that you can like hand it off too. So like if I've got it
mhm,
and like my closest ally gets swap screwed, like if like at the second swap, if I had access to it, I probably would have given it to James. Be like, James, come back.
mhm,
Like they might get rid of you. Like come back over here. Like it's such a cool thing that it has so much like versatility. And then
mhm,
like you could even like so you know someone would do something crazy where they play it on themselves to go over to the other side and get a hidden immunity idol, or like
mhm,
you have two in your possession, you play it, go to the other side, steal the blue idol, and then come back to their original. Or it's like something like that crazy would happen
mhm,
eventually, like if
mhm.
it became like a commonplace advantage in these types of games. So I love that, and I think it should be here to stay.
Uh, Casey, is there anything else about your experience and time in Reelfoot you want to talk about?
No, not that I can think of. I talked a lot. I'm sorry, we've been here for over 3 hours.
Yeah, I think that this is a good 3 hours. I'm happy to have spent this time talking to you. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm glad we were able to schedule and make this happen.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you have any rapid fire questions?
Yeah, if you want to do them, all right. We'll,
Yeah.
we'll go fast. Favorite color, blue or yellow?
Red.
There wasn't even a red tribe your season.
Uh, Probably blue over yellow.
Blue or green?
Blue.
Person who surprised you the most?
Storm. Storm 100% surprised me the most. I completely underestimated him. Uh, he he is a smart cookie, and I just wish he didn't give me I wish he had just left me alone. If he had just done that, he'd had a perfect game, in my opinion.
You have the idol, and you know Megs is getting the votes. Do you play it? And assuming you're still immune, do you play the idol for Megs or you let her go home? And assuming you know how the vote's going to happen.
Yeah, I play it for Megs, and her and I vote for Lauren.
Who do you wish you had a chance to play with but didn't?
Um, Drew and Julie, 100%. They're both. I feel like I would have hit it off with Drew so hard. He's my type of people. Um, and then, like I said already, Julie and I have had some really great conversations, and her and my just worldviews in general. It would have been impossible for me to not worked with Julie. And then also the 18th player, the guy who didn't make it in. I know him in real life. It
Mm-hmm.
would have been awesome. It would have been a completely different game if his name's Devonte. If he had been in
Mm-hmm.
there, man, it would have been so much different. So I would have loved to play with Devonte. He's a cool guy.
What decision that you made in the game spawned the most multiverses?
Ooh, that's a good question. The decision that spawned the most multiverses that I made. I don't think I made any decisions that really affected too
Well,
many multiverses.
and if you want, just say what decision in the game you think spawned the most multiverses. What was the decision in the game? Looking at it.
I don't think I can say one singular. I don't know how to answer that question, but I will say I think Angela is actively the person who's actively involved in the most
Mm-hmm.
multiverses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think she played the best game because she is when I think out of all of the multiverses, Angela wins the game in the most of them. And so
Mhm.
that's why I think she's the best player on this cast.
What's a favorite moment just at Tribe Life, or that you're always gonna remember?
Um, so I accidentally showed people how good I was at making fire. I don't think anyone like picked up on it, but I'm like pretty good at making fire. And
Mhm.
during the after we got rid at blue during one of the blue things or something, we couldn't get the like I guess Keenan couldn't get the fire going or something like that. And then he handed it to me and I got it going like immediately. And I was like, all right, I'm not touching the flint anymore because I do not want these people to know how good I am at making fire. And so I thought it was funny how
Mhm.
like I feel like I was able to kind of hide that. And then Keenan's impressions were just hilarious. That the game Bait Blake in CBS Survivor from like Palau or something like
I
that.
don't remember
Uh,
it.
there's a game called Bait Blake that I think people know, and I think Storm. It's where you like bait someone into like just talking
Mhm.
about themselves and saying funny things. And I think Storm would play bait Blake with Keenan a lot, and Storm would
Mhm.
get Keenan to like do impressions and say funny things. And it wasn't like malicious in the slightest, but
Mhm.
like I think Keenan was in on it too, and it was really funny. I think they did it to me a few times as well. They played bait Blake against me. And Storm, I thought Storm was really funny anytime he was like engaging in this bait Blake game with someone.
You have to bring one person from your cast in the next Survivor Bloomington season. Who is it?
Oh my God, that is freaking hard. Um, so I will say when I bring returnees back, I usually lean towards bringing back people who didn't get a very long experience.
Mhm.
So, um, like I don't bring back people like in that regard, I wouldn't bring back like a Lauren or a Storm because operating in the idea of, they've already had their experience. They're they got their time to play now. So
Mhm.
I would probably invite back someone like Dina or Julie or Drew um, or Megs. So probably someone who got voted out a little earlier. And if they wanted the experience, I'd like to offer that opportunity to one of them.
So which of the following do you like better? Do you like? I guess you can feel for the rank: the mutiny advantage, the penalty vote necklace, or early expiring idols.
Um, Mutiny Advantage is the best, and then early expiring idols, and then uh,
The
the
vote
necklace. I
pending.
hate the necklace. The necklace sucks. Get rid of I hate that stupid thing. That
Okay.
thing was not fun for me.
And finally, do you see yourself playing another Survivor game in the future at some point?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking off this next year, like no
Mhm.
question about it. I'm not doing a third year in a row,
Mhm.
unless Reelfoot like had an all stars and they asked me for something. But there's also like it would have to be like a specific scenario, I think, that they would even ask me back. Like
Mhm.
I'm hoping that they'll do a rivals season. Like I think I would get into a rivals season because they could bring me back with Lauren, they could bring me back with Storm, they could bring me back with Ryan. Like that's my best chance of getting into one of these all-star games.
Mhm.
If they just do like a normal all-stars, I think there's too many people ahead of me in line and I won't get a spot. But um, I think they should bring back some people who have some bad blood with each other. Like, I think it's more interesting to watch people have to figure out how to get through the conflict they had in the past. Like, can Lauren and I figure out how to work together finally,
Mhm.
or are we just going to be at it? Is it our destiny to just be at each other's throats forever? Can Ryan and I get on the same page and play it like use an idol together, or Ryan and I just going to be doing sumo at sea against each other one day and like see who knocks the other one out, so or like or Storm, like how I love when there's like poetic stuff that happens in these games, and how poetic would it be if Storm and I got into a game in the future and then I'm sitting in the finals and now it's his turn to get a jury speech against me, and see how that goes. I want to see those types of stories, or like bring back Megan and Bash. That would be really great to watch those two have to like figure out how to get through that. Like I want to see like in all-star seasons that I envision, I want to see people have to work through conflict. Don't bring back people who are super who are just gonna, run the game again together. That's my mindset in terms of returning. So don't bring me back by myself, and if you do bring me back with someone that we're gonna have to do some conflict management.
I guess final question: Reelfoot's casting heroes versus villains. Which are you? Do you feel like you play more? Do you think you'd fit more in a hero or villain tribe?
It would depend. It would depend. I think you could swing that either way for me. It depends on who else you bring back. They would have to have me on a tribe in contrast to someone else. So
Yeah.
like I think Lauren would probably be a hero, in which case I would be the villain. Whereas um I'm probably a villain. I think people were generally rooting for the dominant Yellow Alliance, and I was very much in contrast to that the entire time. So they're probably putting me on the villain tribe.
Well, Casey, I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Awesome! This was so much fun. Thank you. I'm
Yeah, no
again. I'm
problem.
sorry we 3.5 hours, but I can't help but talk sometimes.
No, I think this we had some really good conversations, and I hope that this was a helpful part of the process for you. That really kind of have a time to really talk through your game from game to end and vocalize like your experience through it.
Oh yeah, this. I'm already feeling better. So, well, I mean, like I said, I'm at 80. I feel at 85%. This conversation, I think it took me up to 90. So, thank you for that
Great.
extra 5%, Stephen.
Well, Casey, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all those who tuned in. For the one person who's left live, you are the victor. It might be Storm. So thank you
My
all.
God,
Thank you
I
all.
love you, Storm.
Thank you all the people in your cast and production who stopped by and asked questions. I think this is likely the end of the interview season, unless one more person from your cast pops up and asks her. I think there's like, oh gosh, I can probably tell you exactly how many people. I think the remaining people would be
I know Megs and Julia
Julia,
still
Megs,
haven't.
and Carly. Yeah, so I've hit 14 out of 17. I feel pretty darn accomplished. But thank you all for tuning in. And there will be more Surviving Reelfoot coverage at the very latest next June. So
Oh
get
yeah.
excited. And until then, we have Survivor for 30. Let's see, 43. I was like 31. No, Survivor 43 is coming our way. So get stoked, people. All right, take care.
Bye.